Alrighty then, welcome back to hour number 2 of the Quantum Show. It is November 26th into the 27th. Happy Thanksgiving. Hello, James. James, you're listening in. You can come in if you like, bro. Okay. I have got to turn off Facebook. I don't know if you can hear anything. I don't think you can. Dinging at me. Okay. Okay. We will get that light fixed. Okay. Now, link is sent to Shadow. Shadow, the link is in your messenger on Facebook. And yes, James, you can come in if you like. Just let me know. I don't want to leave a open link sitting right there. What am I talking about? Yeah, I do. Okay. We'll join later doing 50 things at once like a mini armed god being like a boss. Okay, James. Well, listen in. I'm going over some things. That's all. Updates, a little bit of ufology, a little bit of talking to aliens, a little bit of Thanksgiving, talking about star seeds and all the star seeds. There's more than just a couple. The super ultra pretty young girls, those are the Instagram star seeds. Just the way I think about them. So, okay, tossing out the link to watch. Where am I? Oh, yeah. Tossing out links. You know the deal. That's the way we roll. Very little preparation. So, checking, sending out links. You ever wonder why we're here? What's the point of it? That is describe. I want to talk about show policies too. As soon as shows up. Checking. Okay, Shadow. Bring you on. You're on.
Howdy, folks. What's happening,
Hey,
man?
Shadow. I had 12 in the first hour.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't get here sooner. All kinds of stuff going on, holidays and
Yep.
stuff. You know how it is.
Oh, I do. I totally do. I was lucky I got to do all my stuff yesterday and the day before, so I did not try to do any of it today.
So I hope, excuse me, I hope everybody had a great weekend, a great holiday. No matter how you celebrate it, whether you celebrate it or not, I think it's a real healthy thing to do to every once in a while. Be grateful for everything that you have, because you probably have a lot more than you think you do.
Yeah, I was talking about this to someone at work, how us in the United States are spoiled thinking that, oh, we're in such a bad way, but we're not. We're in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the reason why we're, technically a superpower, if you want to look at it that way.
And a first world nation.
Yeah. Until everybody else is, grateful for what you got. Not to mention, how easily you can lose everything.
So
a very
easily.
important person passed away today in the gaming industry, and it hit a couple of us pretty hard, because thought the guy was going to be around forever, but apparently not.
Yep. Blink and we'll miss them. One day you're here, one day you're not. And it's like, man, did all that time go by really? Now that person is already gone. Lots of introspection there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
The
hopefully we all have
joint.
a lot of time left with each other.
Yes.
And for those of us who don't, treasure every moment you can. And like I said, be
And
grateful. You'd be amazed.
yeah. And also be grateful that if you know the end is coming, no one knows that. If you know the end is coming, it's a special, weird blessing.
Yeah.
It's a very special, weird blessing. It's hard because so many people don't know.
Yep. Most people just get mind that bus, what bus splat.
Yep. Okay. I'm passing out the links and stuff. So
Cool.
Twitter and Facebook is check done. Okay. I
My
actually
son wanted
had
to be on the show. My son, excuse me, my son may want to be on the show, but we'll see. He's kind of involved in something right now, and um, I talked to
okay.
James L, and we'll see. He hasn't been feeling himself lately, and for those of you who do, send out a little prayer for him. He's one of the best guys I've ever met, and just let him know that you miss him, and the show wouldn't be the same without him.
Yeah, he's one of the founding members. James, do you hear that? Do you hear that? You're one of the founders of the Quantum Show. The Quantum Show. For real, dude. You started something. And I have it on authority that the aliens like this content.
There you go.
Keith Andrews told me himself that the aliens like what I'm doing because I'm very pro get along.
Oh, so they don't like me. I just, the skeptic in me.
Oh,
skeptic.
yeah.
You guys know where I live. You guys want to chat? I'm always available. You just put my family to sleep and come and, give me one of the messages and,
Yeah, meet you in the blue room.
Whatever it takes, man. Just, I live out in the middle of kind of nowhere. You got stealth technology. What the hell? I need to make excuses for you guys.
Yeah. I have a feeling that any kind of contact will be totally done on a personal level. So I think I've actually been contacted in the past. I'm not sure. How can I make sure of that? There's no way. There's no way to make sure of that. Well,
I think I've seen numerous things, and once, like I said a long time ago, I think I saw one and nothing. Maybe he was too busy or something. I don't know. That's whatever.
Yeah. Well, I ran it by Xena and Sabrina. Says, I told you this already. What if I contacted aliens? Don't know. Just both of them yelling at me at the same time. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, hey man, I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for my guy to show up. So
they show up in different ways. It might not be telling you a joke. It might be something like the repeating numbers and synchronicities that could all be part of your guide.
For me, it's a lot of deja vu stuff.
Okay. Well, tell them.
Getting that more and more as time goes by. It's
when you realize
opening up, your brain for all kinds of possibilities. You never know what's gonna, cross your path.
Yep. And once you realize it's a thing, you can't unsee that. You can't undo that kind of this is now reality because Remember when the tarot card reader popped on here and she told me that if you do this, there'll be no going back? There ain't no going
Yeah.
back. There ain't no going back. I'm in
Yeah, I
it.
mean,
And
would you want to? Would you really want to? I mean,
no, I would not even want to. I don't want to go
like,
back.
yeah, it's like the Matrix, you know.
Yeah, you can
I
never untake the red pill.
yep.
You're there. And Omanal is in the chat. He says, my friend
Hey,
said she
Alman,
didn't.
sorry there was no show earlier, but you know, I couldn't do it without the little guy, and his schedule was all up in the air. He was supposed to go to a wedding tonight after a school reunion, and it ended up that he went to the reunion, had a lot of fun, and I couldn't do the show while he was there. That would just be not cool. And then he was supposed to go to the wedding right after, but instead he came back here, and he's going to go early tomorrow morning. So here we are.
Yep.
And one of these days, Owen's got to pop in because he's a great guy, and you know, depending on who's already in the show, let's make a spot open up for him sometime soon. Oh, and real quick, Owen, I finally started reading Warlord, and I got to about issue 6 or 7, and it's like, thank you, man. Blast from the past.
Okay. Well, I kind of wanted to just ease into the weird quantum stuff tonight because I've been doing some toy work lately and not a whole lot.
All right,
right?
James. Glad to hear it, buddy. Glad to hear it, man.
Did I miss a chat? Okay. Well,
Oh, you know what? Thigh high boots. Tell her I'll be the judge of that.
okay. I missed your video. I've been busy doing, like you said, holiday stuff and then chores on top of everything. I know you did some making. You did some painting and quick craft, and I wasn't able to watch those yet.
Oh, hey, speaking of which, do you know Sage Forsaken?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I'm doing a craft challenge with him this week. You want in?
What's the challenge?
Something Final Faction, and some other thing. Like, take a Final Faction product, add one other thing that we could all easily get, and then show it off Thursday or start Thursday.
Is this not the animal companion thing? Is it different than that? Because that's what he's doing. It's what he announced over on the forums.
Okay, maybe he's getting ready. I'll talk to him again. I told him I had to look for something. I forget. No, I wanted to watch one of his videos, and I didn't get back to him because family stuff. But yeah, you know, whatever we could do to, you know, because he wasn't feeling so, you know, crafty and stuff. And I'm like, hey, dude, let's do this. I did it with Mad Eye, with Armstrong from Mad Eye Miniatures. You were there. You met him, the guy from Ireland.
Oh, okay, okay.
And then we did it with you, and we did another one with him for October because his birthday's Halloween, of all things. And I was just wishing Sage, you know, happy holidays, you know. And he's like, yeah, you know, I haven't been so much into it. I'm like, dude, let's do it. Craft challenge, man. It's easy as pie.
Okay, well, I'll see. We'll see. Yeah, but something I've been into are alien cowgirls riding dinosaurs.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, dude. There is a Final Faction lady or two. I could get on board with that. I just got to find a cowboy hat.
I had to print these. And these are
those kind of alien.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember
the
now.
kind that you get the weirdest hard-ons from.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'd have to do the Venture Brothers thing and just tell her to keep the helmet on.
Okay. I did
What?
3. One is
What?
just one is the madam. I guess you could say
Yeah.
that's her. And I'm using the Five Below failed line Fabulous, right? They make these dolls. It's a French
Right.
company.
I saw that video last week. I think you did.
Um maybe. I haven't done much on videos with these. Just announcements like there's another one. This is the
Yeah,
Leonard
I remember.
dinosaur.
Well, I saw the video last week of the Five Belows. I haven't been
Oh
in
yeah, yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I did a Five Below stuff video. And yeah, these dolls are excellent action figures. They're very Black Series. Highly articulated, very tough. And the heads pop right off. So I can make new heads for them. Okay, I'm seeing I'm lagging a little bit, a lot. I say
Yeah,
a little.
yeah. I was going to say something, but sometimes it just clears itself up. Sometimes not.
Yeah, we have a very bottleneck connection here, and I've got a computer in the household, a computer, a TV, two phones, and another computer going through one connection. So it is a broadband, but you can only push it so much. And I think one person is watching, streaming video on television, cable
Mhm.
style. And I'm like, oh gosh, okay. But that's that.
Hey, Maria. One of these days you got to get on the show too. You're always so nice.
Okay, welcome again, everybody, to the Quantum Show. We got Tim Freestone, James L. looking at the chatters. Omanal, Joe's here. Joe, let me send you the link. Okay, I'm going to put the link in the chat here. If you want to come on. And let's see. Yeah.
How can Joe say no? Right?
Who knows? He might have something going on. Okay. Chat has the link in it. I just posted it. It will be popping up on YouTube also. Yeah.
Oh, hey, man.
Pop.
I got this thinking of you, man.
Hold on. Let me see. Awesome. Love it.
Yeah. We went to
Okay.
the local gun show last
sex
week.
bots.
And, it wouldn't be the Quantum Show without some.
Right. And if you don't get sex
weirdness.
bots, you're not doing something right.
I'm telling you.
Sex bots have been blocked.
Yeah. Zap got them.
It's like playing whack-a-mole.
Yeah, as a mod on a couple of my friends' channels, that's my job.
Yep.
Especially on Bruce Lombardo's show. He was here the night of the tarot reader, and he's
right.
He's a great guy. I was in his game, and he's like trying to get away from the paranormal stuff just to take a little break, and he's trying to write and stuff, and I'm like, dude,
right.
You gotta come back. He's like, one of these days we'll get him back.
Well, if his path takes him somewhere else, that's quantum, and I understand. But
yeah, no, he's he's like I said, he's trying to write, and he works a pretty heavy schedule. He's got his own channel, and he and I are doing a show coming up together, and he'll be back. He'll be back. I mean, everybody, like I said, everybody's got stuff they got to take care of every once in a while, and I'd have my son here right now, but he's got to play some video games. His vacation is almost over and got to go back to school, and
right.
It's like I get it. You got to decompress. You had a hard, 7 days off, and I know how it feels when you're looking down at the tail end of your vacation, but it's like, but in like 2 weeks you get a month off,
Yeah.
So, but he did have an experience or two in the past couple of weeks that he'd like to talk about, but I'm like, door's always open, buddy.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about them too.
Yeah.
But yeah, if people got things to do, totally understand. I'm in a weird time slot. It's a weird bunch of subjects, and it takes some acclimating, and you got to kind of wrap your head around it. And I totally get it. Totally get it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, okay, everybody, welcome back to the Quantum Show, second hour and beyond. Maria, Joe, James, Monty, thank you for coming back. Omanal, Tim Freestone, and there will be a few others show up. Okay, Joe is coming on.
Just no audio.
Check your audio, Joe.
Audio checked.
Glad to have
Audio
you back, man.
is good. 5x5. Alrighty then.
I was hoping I was a 5x9, but 5x5 will work.
Alrighty then. Well, so here we are all at the Quantum Show on the weekend of Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Hope you had a good one.
How is your National Cannibal Day?
Yeah, I covered that on the first hour. I went deeper. Well, I don't have any in the first hour. I don't have anybody to bounce ideas off of. And Thanksgiving is a national manifestation holiday to fix our capitalism systems. That's my take on it. And I can see the elites using mysticism on a big grand scale just to fix the economy for a little while, once a year, because it sounds once a year sounds like a economic stimulus package, does it not? Everybody
It
go
does
out
have-
and
it does- yeah.
yeah, it just sounds like an economic. You have got all the noises going on, Joe. What is going on over there? Peanuts, batteries.
No, candy, believe it or not.
Okay, because I'm like, whoa, what is all that stuff coming from over there? Okay. Yes, Monty. Monty's asking Joe a radio ham, asking for a 5x9. Got it. Check. Radio check. But yeah, I can see the elites and the money grabbers using mysticism to give thanks where in the law of attraction you give thanks for something and there becomes a deficit and the universe says, uh-oh, we've got to fill this hole. And nature abhors a vacuum. So nature fills it with something. And they go with, well, what's the easiest thing to fill it with? What are they asking for? Manifestation, Thanksgiving. And do y'all have any thoughts on that? Because we touched on it last week, but we didn't really go into it.
I've experimented with it, and I've seen the movie, probably 20 times, and done all the things, etc. And I've only, used it for like one specific thing over and over and over for about a decade, and nothing. But I still do it every day, and one of these days, I'll let you know.
Oh, okay. Well, Joe and I have a very good history of manifesting things.
Yeah, but can I tell Lynn Ann's story?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Tell us the story, Joe.
Lynn Ann needed a vacuum cleaner. So we were in circle one night, and she wished for a vacuum cleaner. She lives with her ex, believe it or not. Well, he went out and he brought 20 brand new vacuum cleaners from off the street. All of them had minor things wrong with them. It was the you remember the I can't remember, Fantasia, the Mickey Mouse part of it. It was that all over again. and do you remember Coyote Song? Coyote Song went out and wished for a blonde, blue-eyed, 6-foot-tall mate. So he came along. Wasn't exactly what Coyote Song wanted.
I don't remember that happening, but must have been not my time.
Probably just right after your time, because he was on the verge of getting kicked out of Coven at the time.
Oh, yeah, that was. I was still kind of easing my way into it.
Yeah, he chose to give medication without permission.
Yeah, not good. But yeah, there's that. And then tell us about the heater, the toaster oven.
Oh yeah, I simply
More recent.
Yeah, I just got a wild hair the other day that I wanted to try melting plastic together, but the good wife would not want me to use the kitchen appliances. So I guess I was 2 streets over. I was still on Roanoke, two blocks over. There was a toaster oven sitting at the side of the road. So
Ta-da!
there it is.
Yeah, Shadow, we manifest things and it just happens. It's part of having a magical household. Things just happen. And it's so commonplace now that it's not even weird for me or for Joe. You know? It just okay, Joe, remember computers, vintage computers. In El Paso, I was into vintage computers, but I couldn't find them anywhere. What happened? War Eagles Air Museum called us and says, "Come pick up all these vintage computers."
Right.
Boom. Remember?
And I got a couple good HF radios out of that, which I fixed up and gave
it was a whole load of hardware. And then the vintage guys were all like, "Well, I guess El Paso's opened up for Nathan." Yeah, you can say that. And it was me going, I was imagining typing on things and working on things and working on the SCSI and all this. And boom, here comes a whole carload of vintage computer stuff. Come get it. Just take it, please. That was manifestation at its finest.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
a lot of that software was buggy with viruses, though, I noticed.
Oh, well, that's to be expected. I didn't say I wanted awesome stuff. I said I wanted vintage, and the vintage viruses came along with it. That's just tech. But yeah, and then law of attraction for real. Shadow, if you're having trouble doing it, just keep doing it. But it's not just putting into words. It's more like I was imagining the cases and the feel of the keyboards, and it was more not just putting it into words, but feeling it, seeing it, experiencing it. And the universe goes, "Here you go. You've been asking, here you go." And it works. It really works. The Secret, the movie. You're talking about the movie, watching the movie several times. The Secret, right?
Hmm.
Okay, yeah, that's the Law of Attraction.
Yep.
Yeah, that's some
And I think
kind
I
of
have the
deep
book
delving
somewhere as well.
book series. Yeah,
Yeah.
The Secret. There was a book. There was a book series. There was a TV series and a movie, and I honestly don't remember watching the movie. I know I watched it, but I don't remember much of it. But the doing of the stuff, I remember that.
Oh yeah, I
totally
got that down. Like I said, you know, there's things that aren't perfect in my life, but I really have no complaints lately. I've been really, really blessed with a lot of awesomeness, and there's only one thing that I would I wouldn't say change, but would really like to see one day, and that's the only thing I ever put out there, and I'm already grateful for it happening, even though it technically hasn't. Um, that's all you can do. I might switch it up under your guys' suggestion. Maybe you got to start smaller. I guess maybe that's part of it. Don't know, but I gotta I I got no complaints. I really don't.
right. I hear
Other
you.
than more hours in the day,
Yeah,
which obviously that's not going to ever happen. Unless they really push back daylight savings time.
and not conventionally.
Yeah,
Go
it's
ahead.
okay. It's okay. We'll see.
I hear you.
I'll try something tomorrow and see what happens.
Yeah.
Just,
Um.
I mean, I'm
What
still going to
about?
continue doing what I've always done, but maybe that's a big one, a tall order. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it. It's not like millions of dollars or something like that. Although I wouldn't mind having
There
millions
are
of
no
subs.
tall. Yeah, there are no tall orders.
Right,
Make
right.
it. You
So,
just go for it.
so for those of you out there who haven't subbed, that's my YouTube handle right there as well. So, I'm trying to hit 500 so I can do this big old giveaway before Christmas. Oh, and Aldi, you know all about it. I'm trying to get rid of some stuff that's all brand new, and I want to give back to my gamer community friends. And I
Yep.
could give it out now, of course, but I mean, come on. I'm only
You know what?
25 away.
I'll leave your link to your channel in the description after the show. I will do
No
that.
worries.
And
No worries. We'll
like
get
and
there.
subscribe, Shadow and Sun, everybody.
We'll get there, guys. Um, we're already so grateful for where we are. Less than a year ago, we were at 170, and with the help of a whole bunch of friends out there in TV land, we're at 470, almost 75. And it seems like just a huge jump. I know it's not, compared to other people, but for us, thinking that there's 500 people out there that are interested, give a rat's ass, whatever, however you want to look at it. To me and my son, just doing father and son stuff is just absolutely amazing. And then being
Yeah.
over here with you guys, this is kind of the highlight of my week. I get to relax with some good friends and and enjoy my other passion, which is this stuff, and talk about it with some great people. And I always come away learning something every time I watch the show or I'm on the show or I watch you, Nathan. I always come away with some new info, some new insights, some new way of looking at things, and that's its own reward. So all you guys out there, make sure you don't miss a show. You always come back on Saturday night, and don't make the mistake, of thinking just because Nathan already did a show that he's not going to come back and do the live show. Because I know you just want to like do your solo thing in the beginning, and get some stuff off your chest and talk about stuff without guys like me interrupting you, and then you bring all us weirdos on, and then the party really starts.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Did you see any of the first hour?
Yeah, I watched up to um, you were starting to have some technical issues,
Oh, okay, yeah. Did you hear me talking about
and I will go back and
ufology?
watch. Yes, yes. And
Okay,
speaking of which, if we get the time sometime tonight, can we talk about a little something that I want to clarify? Because one of my friends, acquaintances, I look to him as a friend, but he's kind of a curmudgeon. Crop circles. Later on, can we talk about that?
it is now later on. We're talking
Okay.
crop circles at the Quantum Show.
All right. Okay. Am I correct in thinking that? Okay, I know everybody, all the normies out there and the regular folks, they say, oh, those two guys admitted to doing it with the stick and the wood, I mean the piece of wood and some rope, and they started the whole thing. Okay, but that's not true, is it?
No, that's not true. They
The
continued on the
well,
bandwagon. Go ahead, Joe.
right, right. The-
Uh, the thing is, a lot of those crop circles showed up in areas they weren't at. They've
Mhm.
shown up in America. They've shown up in Australia. They're on the real crop circles. There is an actual physical difference in the stock where it's bent at, and that
And the
stock is,
radiation,
excuse me,
and the radiation, the
yes,
residual radiation.
yeah, and a magnetic field
Hmm.
that
Am
doesn't
I correct
occur
in
by.
also?
Okay,
Sorry,
go
Jeff.
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, that doesn't
Okay,
occur
real
by
quick.
putting a stick around.
Okay, isn't there also records of the mowing devils going back like many, many, like over 100 years ago?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
they just didn't have
so
airplanes and hot air balloons to go see them from up top.
right.
They could only
Hmm.
see trampled grass, trampled fields.
Hmm.
But yeah, crop circles. Yeah, when they examined the stalks of the crops, they weren't crushed over, right? They were actually grown that way, and it was like,
Or
whoa, how did that happen?
okay, check this out. I've got a theory, due to some of my own research with some other people that know things. Um, well, what I think, and it's not necessarily that I think, but that I was sort of hinted at that this is what they thought it was, that some of them could be the equivalent of some of our, satellites that we have out there, some of our high-tech satellites using a technology that is basically engraving a test pattern. Like imagine they were getting ready to fire something down at the earth and they use a sort of a test pattern that they'll draw with the beam weapon on like its lowest setting to mark a certain specific location to go if we wanted to we could fire and that area would be affected.
Okay, yes, I know what you're talking about. Um, yeah, could be, but I don't think this is a weapon. I think this is more of a communications tool because there was a
Well,
crop circle. Go ahead.
it totally looks like that, but what better way to disguise it, until you're ready to use it, you could go, okay, this is the pattern, and you know next time it'll be different. You know what I mean? It'll be bad.
They've been doing
Monkey
it for
brain
hundreds
is
of
kicking
years.
in. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's the monkey brain fear kicking in.
Hmm.
That's the
Hmm.
tactical. That's the logical. I understand it. I don't think that's what's happening.
Hmm.
I just don't see that, right? Because they could have done that at
Well,
any point in time, but they
okay.
haven't.
Here's the other thing: is I totally think there's two different or three, let's say three different sources of all of them. You got humans doing it from the ground, then you got maybe humans doing it up from above, and then you may have something that was doing it a long time ago and may still be doing it today.
You know, I've seen a video where you could actually see what looked like a little flying saucer fly across the field, and underneath it, there would appear the symbols.
Right.
Mhm.
I've seen those too.
And so, yeah,
It wasn't
and
a
there
guy with a board.
no, it wasn't the
It
guy with a
definitely
board.
wasn't. Though those are possible. They just don't have the
Right.
physical traits later.
Right. And how hard would it be to literally hire two guys to say that they did it?
Yeah, it wouldn't be hard at all. Pay me money, I'll say anything you want me to say. So, yeah. But I don't think it's a threat because there have been crop circles. There was one we put on a satellite. We put on a satellite. I don't have the link here, and it was a binary thing, but it was also done with pictograms of like humans, right?
Yep.
There was a pictogram of
And then
go ahead.
Oh, and then we got a response to it.
Right. Then you know the one I'm talking about. And it
That's
was
the
done
chill.
in the same the what?
That was the Chill Bolton crop circle, which
Okay.
features an alien face and ASCII code.
Yes.
You can find that in the Wikipedia Commons.
Okay. Yeah, that one. It was a response in the same format as we sent. And that was definitely not a weapon. That was communication. And just as I observe it. And
well, the reason I say weapon is because between the radiation and the magnetic changes, whatever does it, I'm assuming it's the machine that does it, okay? And it's probably using some sort of beam sort of technology that fires and draws the beam out, and then everything falls over, and there you go, right? Do you remember those old those lasers that would draw a picture on your wall?
Yeah.
Because it moved so fast, you would perceive it as, it's one beam, but going so fast that it would just draw this simple image.
yes.
Something like that, but using a different, type of technology to draw a picture, and then the picture is permanent in the grass. I could see that its original source is something like that, some sort of machine that's pushing the leaves down like the lasers, and that leaves the bigger message.
Right.
I'm totally down with that, but what would do that? I mean, probably a lot of different things could effectively do that. I'm not a big tech guy, so I can tell you, well, you could do this or that, but obviously it's not, some sort of, just psychic powers, just thinking the image there, or some, ancient ritual, and poof, it appears. I know it's nothing like that. It's got to be some sort of, more or less hard science kind of thing, making those things appear.
Possibly. I don't know if it would be a beam like a laser, or if it could be a field effect. I don't mean a field because it appears in a field, but a field like a radiation field. It could be a projection of, oh man, crop circles is a really deep subject. Just because it's done in grass doesn't make it not technical. Oh man, there's so much. There's a guy who wrote a song, the crop circle song. What are they? Come on, Goofonians. Why are they? What do they mean? I'll try to find a link. I'll link it after the show. Sorry, I'm not singing it very well.
No worries. I was curious of what you guys thought about it, and if you could back me up on what I told this other guy who misunderstood what I said, and I'm like, no, and I re-explained, and that kind of ended the conversation. But I wanted to make sure I wasn't misspeaking what I told him the second time around because he misunderstood the first time around. But I've watched a lot of different videos on it for going as far back as I can remember. It's been a thing, and I've even seen people try to recreate them, but it's kind of like the Nazca lines. I get you can do it, okay, with string and if you had a piece of paper and you drew it out and did the math and you did the points, you could have people stand holding ropes, etc., and then draw the lines or what have you. But it just seems like massively complicated to do in a hurry.
Yeah,
with people and strings and sticks
in moments.
Well, no, even the Nazca lines, you would need a lot of people, and you'd need someone with some serious math skills, and in a place where there is no paper, and rope and things like that are probably also pretty damn scarce. Sure, you could just use a small stick and eyeball it. Okay, you stand there. Okay, now walk toward me in a straight line. You're not going to get that kind of precision that you get with the Nazca lines without, either someone watching and directing you from above, which could have been done with hot air balloons. Okay. There's no evidence of it, but if that's all you had to work with, it would be a lot easier to do it with hot air balloons and people and some sort of, signal flags or semaphore or something like that, telling people, okay, walk toward this thing, but you're still going to have mistakes. And those lines never, whether they're the crop circles or the Nazca lines, they always seem to be perfect. And if you make a really big mistake, that's kind of going to be just as permanent as the lines you're trying to make. How do you go back over and then cover it up? I know it's just dirt and, but it's a whole big deal.
Okay, Monty is in the chat saying they are only 2,000 years old. People had rope and very serious math back then. Yeah, they did. However, those super straight lines that go for hundreds of meters are really hard to deal with. And it's not just the math part of it, it's the terrain. They're on the top of a mountain. They can't breathe up there for very long. And
they can be seen from the top of a mountain. They're down in the plain, and it is hot as hell down there.
Also, they're all over that area, and there's the terrain. There's being able to go in a straight line in a hilly area or even a flat area. It's difficult.
And the whole argument that the Nazca lines are some sort of spiritual path to walk and religious hooey, that I'm just like, there's no evidence of that. Okay, that makes a great, sort of straw man argument that that's what it is, but there's no evidence of anything of why any of it was done whatsoever. But you can infer at least two things. You can only get and appreciate them from really high up above where they are, and they look like things we do now, like the airstrips and things like that, which would make perfect sense considering how at least one location someone went and freaking shaved off the top of a mountain and made it flat.
Right.
Okay, okay, that right there, I mean, because most people don't understand that or believe that, but that's fact. Okay, someone went in there and just freaking like cut off a freaking top of a mountain, and there's no mines, there's no evidence of that kind of tool making. What it would take to literally have trillions of man hours of people with copper chisels and stone hammers, filing down a mountain perfectly, and where did it all go? Kind of, what the hell? Oh, yeah, it was hit by a meteor coming at just the right angle, and it just shattered? No, I don't think so.
No,
I mean...
And you have to remember the Incas, for some reason, like to make a lot of pottery in the shape of airplanes with delta wings and apparently jet engines.
Yep, and they want to just call them, mistakes or fish or other things that there's no evidence for, but yet there's evidence, that those shapes work. They've taken propellers and engines and remote control engines and made those freaking shapes fly. Okay, just by blowing them up, even in Egypt they found the Saqqara bird or the Dakar bird. I forget what it was called.
Right.
They knew about those shapes when there is absolutely no logical reason other than, someone knew how to make a flying machine, but yet there's no flying machines, but there's pictures and images and sculptures of flying machines, but no flying machines. What, are they deeper underground? We got to just keep digging. Eventually, we'll come across these flying machines.
Well, we've come across all this other stuff. Why not? I say we keep digging. Keep going. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. It's all rather baffling. The proposed, explanations are more wild than the ideas that the typical, UFO guy would put forth.
Yeah. Oh, and also about the top of the mountains. Where is that material? It's nowhere.
Yeah, I said that.
It's gone.
Yeah, it's not at the bottom of those mountains. It's just gone.
Right.
You
talked about the tools and stuff that we wouldn't have the ability to do it in the first place. But then the mountain top, where did it go? It's gone. It's just not here anymore.
And there's a lot of proposed technologies that we're just borderlining on that would do it.
Yeah. Yeah. El Paso, what was it? CMEX? They're working on chopping down the foothills of the Franklin Mountain Range over there for gravel and road work and decorative purposes and whatever. But it is not pretty. It looks like they're blowing stuff up because that's how they're doing it. It doesn't, it's not a giant angle grinder robot going, no,
or even some of the
like
tunnelers, or even, an above ground tunneler type machine.
Yeah. Omanal is in the saying, our ancestors were far more advanced than we give them credit for, including knowing the diameter of the earth within 100 miles. Damn straight. Not aliens, it's us.
But here's the thing. Okay, let's assume for just a second that there's no aliens ever came here ever. Everything we did ourselves. That would mean to me that history would have to go back so far that they could surpass us in our technical expertise now by hundreds of thousands of years, and then get completely obliterated and buried under miles of dirt, only for us to try to, scrape our way back from the Stone Ages to here.
Yes.
Remember the Egyptians?
Go ahead, Shadow.
The Egyptians' pyramids, when they found the quarries, they don't find what we're looking for, which is a sequence of holes where they can put the copper or bronze wedges in and break it and get that sort of irregular pattern you get when you break something like that. They find striations like it was cut with a circular saw.
They
and
found
some of those really big saw bed blades that the housings for those saws that they're finding. I've seen those big trenches with what looks like what a giant circular saw blade or whatever was there. Well, if for some reason one of those projects got shut down back in those days, the people would just tear that freaking saw blade apart and turn it into lots of smaller tools. Even if it was some sort of like say it was a copper, saw blade with the right mixture of sand and granulates to help make the saw work. I could see that, but the time that it would have taken for them to develop the technologies, and then the time for that all to be wiped away, and whether it was a flood or what have you, any of the other extinction events, that's going back a lot of centuries, a lot of millennia before we would ever find evidence of any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
The stone spheres in South America.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh,
They
yeah,
found
yeah.
these spheres all over the place. Well,
Yeah, the Olmec head.
Not just the Olmec heads, but the stone spears. It's been shown that, and we use this technology now in stabilizing buildings versus earthquakes and earth shifting,
Right.
because that's what it does. It geometrically, it will take a vibration and it will disperse it. And
Mm-hmm.
the more spears that you have, and they are using this technology now, the more spears you have, it's like a giant shock absorber, except it doesn't absorb it, it disperses it in a it takes a strong wave and cuts it up into little waves in multi directions instead of just one direction. And that's what go ahead.
What gets me is those stone spheres, like when they were found in Costa Rica, all of a sudden they're found around the world.
Omanau is coming on.
I'm sorry, guys. You were talking my language. As soon as you start talking about the ancient stuff, and I'm like, all right,
what's up, Owen?
pretty good.
Welcome.
Well,
Welcome
thank
back
you.
Had
to
a
the
great
Quantum Show.
holiday, man.
Well, I have. I mean, even though it's been low, but that's great for me. Of course, there's always spending too much money on stuff that I should have bought the rest of the year. But no. Now you're talking about how far things go back, and what amazes me is if you just look at the sky, and you look at it, and we know, like people talk the age of Aquarius and how it shifts about every 2,600 years or so, on where the precession of the Earth is. What's true north, and think about it. Our ancestors knew this, and it only goes 1 degree every 72 years or so. That means that our ancestors were looking at the skies, and they were recording this through like one lifetime per person to see this,
or several.
Well,
if you go with the projected life expectancy of the people back then, you could be looking at two.
Yeah, well,
2 lifetimes per degree.
But that's exactly it. So you're looking at this, and you have to pass that knowledge down, and that goes over. And my view is, and I could be wrong on this. Usually, we don't get on the first time around because we say, "Oh, that's just luck," but usually it takes 2 or 3 times. So if you're going back, that means we're going back 50, 70,000 years ago. And what amazes me nowadays is that the sheer hatred that we could have had an advanced civilization, and advanced, and this is the problem that I have with it. Everyone assumes advanced means that they were necessarily meant that they knew much more technology than we did. I think that there's 2 things. One is I think that there are technologies we have lost in stone carving, like Joe was talking about. I mean, looking at, there's a great book by, what is his name? Christopher Dunn.
I love that guy.
Yeah, I mean, now going through his books are really dry. So, but as an engineer, he's going over like, look, we have machines, and the Egyptians even said we are an inheritors of stuff. Not that they got this, but we inherited this. And I kind of wish that I'd gone on the exploration, but instead I bought land to Egypt with Randall Carlson and that group when they were doing their stuff. And they were showing stuff going over, and they said, look at the stonework. And all of a sudden it just stops. Like there was something that just stopped all work everywhere around the world. And anyone that's been to the Scablands, which I think is a great place to go look at those floods, 2,000 feet deep. Yeah. And the question is, why were they there? And his supposition on this is that several, either meteors or comets hit the ice sheets and vaporize that water almost instantaneously, which to me makes the most sense. And boy, you put all that vapor into the air, of course it's going to come down as massive rains. So when you start hearing these biblical accounts, it's not just the Bible; they're all over the world.
Yeah,
People think
it's universal.
Yeah, exactly. And go ahead. What, Jim?
Have you also considered that many ancient texts don't mention the moon?
I have not. I haven't really looked into some of that. You know, there are certain things I'm like, oh, okay.
And the Aztecs recorded that the moon was brought here by an lizard-like people, and that it's hollow and it's their home.
Yeah, the moon's a whole separate trip. That is.
Yeah, but it could have caused, when they brought it here, it changed the atmosphere, because the Indians recorded that there was no rain until the moon appeared. Everything, the whole atmosphere was misty, and you didn't get the separate clouds and all the rest of this until the moon appeared.
You know, there's some things that it's hard to tell what's true and what isn't. I can say this much, though. I have seen, I mean, my son and I went twice up to the Scabland area to look at the giant floods. And if there was an advanced civilization there, you would never know, because it would have been scoured or buried under hundreds of feet of debris, or just carved straight out of the land. I mean, that's the best way to describe it. Is it literally scarred the land. I mean, just tore it apart. You know,
can you imagine the tsunami that the moon would have caused when it just suddenly was in the sky?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's gets me about all of this and people don't want to believe this. And my friends are. This is the interesting. So I have a few friends of mine that are archaeologists. They like to play role playing games, and so we discuss stuff. And they like talking about Graham Hancock, and one of them did the stuff in Crete. And whenever you hear it, they're like, "Oh, the Sumerians were one of the first in there." And my friend was talking about, "Oh no, they had aqueducts 8,500 years ago." I said, "Well, wait a minute. This predates stuff by 3,000 or 4,000 years." And he goes, "Yeah, they don't really advertise that because it screws up their timeline."
Yeah, but consider the timeline of the Sumerian kings. The Sumerian kings lived for hundreds of thousands of years.
Yep.
I mean, that's but that's what amazes me is they know this, but if you actually listen to it, a lot of times, like, oh, 3,500 BC, and that's why I said when I start hearing advanced, Göbekli Tepe, which is what 12,000 plus years ago, and they don't want to, they don't want to pretend all of this stuff, and then you go, okay, and then the sea levels rose 400 feet. I mean, people forget, 400 feet, and most cities are built around the coast initially, unless there's something in there. And then you get a massive floods, which we know occurred. There's not going to be anything left.
Look at Dwarka, in India. That place, was a legendary place off the coast, and water rose, and everybody forgot, act like it was mythical, and now they find it. There's, the biggest problem with all of this is the adherence to these academics who are no longer even alive. Their theories are held like scripture, and we're proving them wrong all the time. But we don't want to rewrite some books, make some news headlines, talk about some stuff that happened a long time ago that we're now actually figuring out with actual evidence, compared to some guesswork a couple hundred, 100 years ago or what have you. There was a time when nobody wanted to believe, dinosaurs were a thing. Okay. And now it's just common knowledge. How long is it going to take before we finally just, toss out the old books, write the new books when it comes to these subjects, based on, things we're finding out that those guys didn't know about.
Well, and I know that Nathan probably does this, or Joe, when they start discussing sonic vibrations and stuff, how did they cut these things? And I've heard a few things, and I've seen some compelling work by one person talking about at least the limestone on the outside of the pyramids, not necessarily the granite, but the limestone on the outside of the pyramids could have been concrete. Now I've seen, everyone wants to argue, and I haven't actually gone out there myself, but the guy who was showing it was showing on how it was going. I said, okay, I've worked with concrete, I understand that, and he showed how it can be done by hand, and it makes a lot more sense for that. Now the real thing is, what about the granite inside? That's the real amazing aspect for it, but not the other things. But but like you're talking about is, if anyone read, whether you like Graham Hancock or not, if anyone read the what I want to call it, the character assassination that the Society of American Archaeologists did against the man, and just how condescending and how there was vitriol and condescending, and even in some cases, this is what amazes me, even when other archaeologists completely disagree with them, it was, we are going to close ranks, we're going to pretend that nothing challenges this, and they were doing stuff that's been debunked 20 or 30 years ago, even by other archaeologists. And I said, well, how am I supposed to trust this group if you guys can't even get your basic facts right? And it says, and my friend was talking about this, he said, the archaeologist, you don't get into academia, you don't become a professor unless you agree with everyone, because if you do anything controversial until you get tenure, they're going to keep you there. And so that prevents a lot of learning from that aspect. And then the other part that really gets me about that is, and that's why you get brought, if you are in the in-group, they blow you out. He said, those people might teach 100 students a year. That's it. He said, but the podcast that come out reach hundreds and thousands of people. And that's what they're so mad about, is no longer can they control the narrative. And I said, I don't know.
What's so special about the old narrative? What are they trying to maintain or cover up or hide or keep people from understanding? If it's, we're talking about ancient history, nobody gets hurt.
Yeah, but their reputation's in there, and like I'm saying here is 100%. Even if Graham Hancock is 10% right, the point is that's 10% difference in growing up the typical scientific method, which is what I get so mad about whenever I hear trust the science. If anyone says trust the science, they don't understand the word of science. Science is supposed to be challenging. Opposite. Exactly. You're supposed to challenge, and you're supposed to ask questions, and you're supposed to come up with hypotheses and theories that argue against it. And then your job is supposed to disprove it. And that's what I get so mad at, is if you're not trying to disprove what you believe, then you're not performing science. And the other part is, I know that I did this in Nathan's earlier show, or the today, was science is a method. It has to be repeatable and observable. If you haven't done those two things, if you observe it but you can't repeat it, you can't prove it one way or the other. And if those are the problems that I have so much. Whether you believe in God or not, and this is why even Richard Dawkins has to admit this, you can't prove or disprove God because you can't make it observable and repeatable. That's what gets me. So I said, if it's a matter of faith, then that's where it needs to be. But people don't seem to understand those two. And that's what gets me so mad about a lot of the scientific community, is you're not smarter than the rest of everybody else. What you have to realize is that there's a limitation, and the best thing you can do is shrug your shoulders and say, we don't know. We can't perform tests to verify. Okay, good. That's real science. So yeah, but I admit there's so much things that I look at for 12,000 years ago, and I admit part of me wants to believe this, but I like listening to Randall Carlson, and I've met the man, and he gets a lot of good sources, but he also goes way out there like Nathan does. But but you need to have both of those. You need to be grounded in both in hard science, so you can really fight off your critics for that, and then you need to go explore these areas that are fringe, because that's the only way science works. No, science never advanced by anyone agreeing with someone, not once. That's what gets me, is if you aren't challenging things, then you aren't doing your science. Anyway, sorry, that's my little lecture on that. But I think that our ancestors could have had either different technologies or even advanced civilization to me would be Greek, because that's supposed to be 10,000 years more advanced than what they were talking about in the Pleistocene. And who knows? These great cities where I swear it looks like some of them are underwater. We know Doggerland was there, and scientists fought fishermen for years. There's nothing out there. Yeah, okay, then explain why these fishermen are bringing up artifacts out of the water. But there's no money in it. I think there's a lot of that aspect, and they're afraid of just realizing, I think, on how smart our ancestors were. They're talking about fish going back, cooking fish in ovens 700,000 years ago. Like, holy crap. Do you think that I'm not saying we don't lose this knowledge, because I think every time there's a great cataclysm, we do lose this knowledge, especially whenever you start talking about a comet. There's a reason comets were, portents of ill omen, because, man, if we get hit by part of it, we're screwed. And to somehow believe that we're somehow more anti-fragile than we were 100 years ago, I think it's a complete mistake. We saw during COVID when they shut stuff down, and our standard of livings have dropped faster than anything. I went, holy crap. Anyway, sorry, that's where I am.
All good. And also, you're going back to the notaliens.com oh, wait a minute. Sorry. You're going back to the notaliens.com aspect of it that I'm always referring to every show we go into ancient artifacts. Because, yeah, humans are fragile. We're like those frogs. Why do we still have frogs? Why do we still have humans? If frogs are so fragile, if humans, same argument, same statement. Why do we still have humans? Why do we still have frogs? Because we're hardy and we get by and we make it happen. And we have that will to survive. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just saying, I think that people forget, we're the surviving species of several different, Homo hominins. That's what gets me about it. And, when you look at our ancestors, okay, let's go with the traditional thing. Look, I mean, they were over in Australia 50,000+ years ago, and yet they carried the same stories with them that we hold today. And not that everyone has to like it, and I'm not convinced, but he makes a compelling argument, is Dave Matheson talking about his star myths and just relating all of the different stories throughout different cultures and how they orient things. It seems like we all have that one connection for culture, and it goes back 50,000+ years ago. We knew this stuff, and it amazes me. And I was talking about cosmic trigger a little bit earlier, which got me looking into psychedelics. And you're talking about, are there frequencies? Are we on a giant? How do I say? It's not just frequency. Are we on a species level frequency where we can communicate in some ways and pass knowledge? Yeah, those things that I find very interesting from that aspect. Is
you mean like on a quantum level?
On a quantum level, I was looking for the sign right now.
There you go. Well, but that's just it. As you look at it, and you're right for quantum. Well, now we have science to say it's quantum, but before it was we're great consciousness all connected. I think that there is some truth to that. So anyway, but when you were talking about it, I'm amazed by our ancestors, and I sometimes think our ancestors used more common sense than we did, and they were able to do things that we just don't give them credit for. And when you see someone do it, you're like, oh, what is that? What is that? Coral Palace or whatever in Florida?
Coral Castle.
Yeah. Florida. Yeah, where you moved giant blocks as one man. So, okay, well, how did he do it? I don't know. But if he did it with a simple mechanical leverage, well, maybe he figured out a better way of doing it, and I think that we could learn something from that. That's what amazes me. Is
well, he's on record saying he did it with true magnetism.
Well, yeah.
Whatever the hell that means, I don't know, but that warrants looking into.
Well, Tesla, why did the government steal all of his stuff and hide it? You're talking about it. I've been hearing, and again, I don't know how much because I haven't looked into it. They talk about singing to the stones, and they could raise stones hundreds of feet. for the Buddhist monks. And like, oh, okay. Now, how they did it, I don't know. But we know that sonic allows us to drill through rock much easier than normal methods. So, how were they doing it back then? That's what always amazes me is
there's another technology I think we overlook, which is water pressure.
Yes.
You can cut a person in half with water pressure.
You can't. Well, even from an engineering standpoint, if you can get a crack, all that you have to do is put enough water in it, and just the water pressure will form that crack and push it open, as long as you keep it full of water. And it doesn't take a big crack to put enough water pressure to slowly crack it. But what amazes me, and I haven't seen a lot of people looked at it, but I did see something where they were talking about using fluoric acid for smoothing out these stones, for granite. And I said, well, if they're using fluoric acid to do that, one is that I could understand that, and they found some there's that's still one of those experimental geology. And the problem is the real experimental stuff is not being done by researchers in universities. It's being done by normal laymen people. Yep. And that's what amazes me is, and they're talking about with fluoric acid. I mean, you can get that mirror shine on obsidian and several other stuff on there. The question is how can you handle it and make sure that the handlers don't die? I think that's the hard part. But the Serapeum, I saw people showing it off at the lines, and I'm going, I can't get my contractors to get 2 feet going over 200 feet, and yet the Romans can do over a mile with only a couple of inches. I said, we know that's not. So what does that tell us? That tells us that maybe our ancestors, even using primitive technology that the Romans did, were still better than we were.
Well, I don't think the Romans had that primitive of technology, because they had, there was evidence of, it might be a one-off, but nanotech.
Ooh.
They had, you remember the green glass? No one knows how they made that. I can't. Joe, if you could look that up, Roman nanotechnology, or I'll look it up. Going mute.
Well, what amazes me is this idea that somehow we don't lose technology. And we know it does. There's a, and I can never remember if it's music. It's a type of cloth that is nearly transparent. And, they were talking about a woman wearing 7 layers of it, and it being so risque for her wearing it. And we had this technology 200 years ago, and yet we've lost it. And we almost lost, what is it? Or I was simply listening to a perfect read for a book, losing carmine, or, with the Beatles, for the red dye.
Oh, okay.
We almost lost that because people weren't trying to raise the beetles, and only whenever people became, that they wanted natural, only does that come back. But, there was a big fight over that for hundreds of years between the Spaniards and all these other places that wanted red, and that was the only one that made the best red. But yeah, I can't remember what the cloth is called. It's musela or something like that.
I totally remember that. Our buddy James says something interesting here. Hold on, let me bring it up. About where is it? What the hell? Oh.
Yeah, the cochineal beetle.
He's really good with written history, since New Kingdom Egypt gets pretty blurry prior. The good thing is we have a lot of primary and written source for that. Last 4,000 years after that gets a bit sketchy. I think even in the last 4,000 years, there almost seems like, we know that at certain periods in those 4,000 years, information was suppressed by certain people over the masses. Well, that seems like a common thing that's happened more than once in the last 4,000 years. Well, what if it's actually been suppressed even longer than that? What if there's a group of people that keep doing that, keeping us from getting to a certain point.
I'm going to bring up another thought of processes, because whoever succeeds or whatever else will take my old monuments and rededicate them to themselves. And so they keep doing that over and over. But what I'm laughing at is because the people in power, as we can tell, tend to be very lazy, and they tend not to actually do any manual labor. That if you wanted to pass information, the best way to do it is for the builders and architects to put in symbols, and that's why you probably get some of the masons and stuff like this. You can put that into the building itself, and to pass knowledge from one generation to another over millennia, with the assumption that all they're going to, instead of trying to tear stuff down in many cases, which like some will do, but a lot of times they'll just rededicate it to themselves. But it allows you to put the foundations where no one really wants to dig. That's where you can put your information to transfer it over from one generation to the next, because only the builders and construction men are the ones that are ever going to be touching that. And it protects you from that small, narrow, myopic elite who don't do anything productive.
Right, and never understand the math or any of the other, details, the hard work, the hard labor, the heavy lifting mentally and otherwise. There's been numerous, let's just say, writers who've talked about the unusual measurements in the pyramids and things like that. Like you're saying, how we knew about the circumference of the earth and things like that. That's a great way to sort of back up what you were just saying, is that they could hide the measurement and other details in these structures that eventually people will figure out and go, hey, how'd they know this, how'd they know that, sort of immortalizing just those numbers, just the simple numbers, can't be a coincidence.
Well, I like to, like I said, I like listening to Aaron Carlson. I know he's a Freemason for a lot of stuff. So they carry a lot of the sacred geometry and stuff and numbers, which I find interesting. Where these numbers keep coming up, like 7,800 and 200,000 and distances either to the moon or distances around the earth. When you start finding these numbers now, but they all seem related, oddly enough. So you try and go through it. And sometimes I wonder, when you start looking, which I always have to laugh at when people talk about meters and things. I'm not against using meters or anything else, but you're replacing an old system that has existed for thousands of years with a new system that disconnects you from everything previous. And that's the one thing I think that is kind of dangerous from us, is the idea that, that old stuff we don't care about. Now, anyone who ever has done surveying understands that you better know what a vera is if you lived anywhere that was around the Spaniards, because that determines your land, not meters, vera, which is a step. It's a surveyor step. And there's things like that. And so when I hear people go, I don't care about this. Well, start understanding where, the pound sterling came from. And that's what really gets me. But the other, that's there's some of that, James. I'm sure that there is. But I look at it and said, we need to stop. There's wisdom in the old ways. And nowadays it's like, and I know you and I think this way, like the old role-playing games where people are like, it's not worth looking at because it's old, and that's what old people played. And there's a lot of wisdom if you go back and listen just to that. And then what really amazes me is when you start looking at Cleopatra and then you go further back, why is it the technology that's older seems to be better built and require more technical skill than the stuff that's newer?
I saw that, Dave.
Yeah, I know.
Maria, what is this? I've only recently just heard about it. The I don't want to butcher the name. The Jacha plant softens rock and makes it like putty clay.
Let's see. And maybe that's the one that they were talking about. Yeah, I mean, and to be it, yeah, that's actually kind of cool looking when I look it up. But I love it because they say fringe theorist and pseudoscientist. No, science is, you're not a pseudoscientist if you test it. If you're not testing it and you just tell people no, then you're a pseudoscientist. Science is based off of repeatability and observability. Show me you can do it and repeatedly, not just a one-off. And then we'll say, okay, you got something there. And that's what I hate so much about academics nowadays is because they're chasing grants, but they're not chasing truth. And that's
like James L said, they're pushing, Marxism, which is, a pretty accurate statement there. They're trying to, act like if you read if you watch the book that my son recommended for Connell's show, the book that we read called how they get to a certain point and everything the state says is perfect, and everybody just lockstep in line with that way of thinking, regardless of how wrong it is and how easily provable wrong it is. But because the state said it was right, it can never be disproved. Otherwise, the whole house of cards comes tumbling down. It keeps bringing me back to what is it they're trying to hide? For example, Nathan, you propose that we did all this stuff ourselves, or a lot of this stuff ourselves. We figured it out long time ago. Who's it going to hurt if we just suddenly accepted that as a possible truth, that yes, in fact, we did all this cool stuff a long time ago, then something happened and we kind of forgot it? Who's that going to hurt?
I'm going to bring up one thing which I thought was kind of interesting, and because I can't find it nowadays and they won't post it. So around 2009 or 2010, NOVA did something about the extinction of the mammoths. And they said, well, it looks like there could be little micrometeorites and blah, blah, blah. And they're all talking about this, which is pretty much, that's why I first heard about it. And I had no problems with it. I can't find that NOVA episode anywhere. They all admit that there's a NOVA episode, but you can't watch it. And I said, well, wait a minute. Why are we suppressing this information that leads us somewhere? And I like I said, I like looking at stuff. I'm less into the aliens. I mean, I think the idea is really cool, but I'm less into it because I like to believe that if we can do it without, I won't say extraterrestrial help, it says so much more about us as a human species. Now, I could be completely wrong on that, but there may be a combination of the two. But to me, I said, let's go look at what we can do as a species first. Then let's start looking on the outside. Is the way I do it. Because I hate the way it's kind of, it's just magic. I said, well, then how did they do their magic? Let's at the end of the day, how did they do it? And can we replicate it? Those are things that I give over. So maybe there is. Who knows? Maybe. How did I was reading Cosmic Trigger, which I thought was interesting. And that dealt with a lot with psychedelics, but they were talking about, binary stars that you can't see with the naked eye. And yet our ancestors knew this thousands of years ago. Well, how did that occur?
The Dogon.
Yeah.
They knew, was Sirius, I think, was a binary star. They knew about it before we did.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's kind of, and
kind of epic.
Yeah. It's, that's what I look at.
Exactly, Nathan. Like Owen said a minute ago, it can be both. But clearly there's a massive something that's trying to be hidden, whether it's us or aliens. Either way, they don't want us to know either answer. They want us to think that everything started at this point in history and everything came from that. There's no reason to to shut off the flow of information prior to that point. There are reasons, and there are, there's 2 or 3, theories that will fit. We did it, somebody else helped us do it, or something else other than even that. Okay, the third theory, I have no idea. Okay, not at the moment. But clearly there's been an actual active attempt to keep us from looking back farther than a certain point.
Even archaeologists long ago, which was the Clovis first, and they're admitting that even when they were having evidence up to 33,000 years ago. And it's funny, they'll just attack people that said that, people in the Americas were this, and we aren't even sure what where they came from. Everyone says across the land bridge, but it looks like there may have been a group that came through Polynesia across the sea. It looks like there are groups that came over from Europe as well. And I said, okay, so, now we're in this weird aspect. We know 2,000 years ago that a group from the Iberian Peninsula left and, left from, the Roman Empire and went over to the Americas. We know this. And yet, man, the sheer fighting over it, or like the book that I have, which is was Francisco Orellana sailed down the Amazon, and he was talking about the Amazon was full of cities, full of people, and then 100 years later they were all gone. And so people are like, oh, that's not true. I said, we have contemporary accounts of what things are, and yet we still have people that argue that wasn't true. And only unfortunately by clear cutting are we finding all of these megaliths or ancient things in there, structures. And some of these structures obviously are celestial, or I say celestial. They're meant to go towards the stars. They have to do with celestial events. And that's just what amazes me on all of this, and says, okay, there's just so much out there that I wish that we would be more open to. And my friend sent me something from the medicine wheel. I don't know if you're familiar with this, Nathan. It's the Great Medicine Wheel in Wyoming. And they talk about spirits and everything else about that. And what's interesting is they had a group of archaeologists all together, and they said, and they were talking about astroarchaeology, and they said, oh, this site's not astroarchaeological. And yet it points over to the movement of Mars and the stars and everything else. What arrogance is there? Instead of saying, okay, you know what it could be, could you just show us the proof? There's nothing that hurts, but it is the actual suppression and anger that there's something different, and even when it's clear, they yell and scream, and they think that they can bury it. And what was it? Was it Schliemann that found Troy?
Yep.
Oh, there's nothing there. You see that's false. That's not true. And now they're like, oh, well, it is. And okay, he didn't do the best archaeological with using dynamite, but he still proved his point. It looks like that's where Troy is. And we know, and this is the one thing I am, we have stuff in South America. I know that we have stuff, in Egypt. I don't know too much about sub-Saharan Africa, and I really wish I knew a lot more. I hear that there is stuff that's very old, but boy, that's one of those things that who knows what's there. And if human beings
to be honest, Roman, every continent that we has things that we're discovering. Russia and China, every continent has things that are only now being discovered. Basically mostly pyramids, but nobody wants to admit to it. Why?
Well, there's more than pyramids. In Ohio, they dug out mounds long time ago, not recently. They found giant skeletons over there, also in New Mexico, also in Kentucky. And I don't have the links for these things, but why are they hiding these things? Why? I don't get it.
Exactly, Nathan.
Let's rewrite them history books. let's just put a lot of I don't know stuff in there.
Well, and you know, you talk about these giants, and maybe they. Well, what gets me about it is most of them were taken over the Smithsonian, and then they're just buried. You know, that's what gets me about it. They're just buried.
They were dumped in the ocean.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Well, what was that one that they found with the Army Corps where they were fighting back and forth because they didn't want anyone to test it? That's what gets me is whichever groups were out there was found 9,000 years ago. No offense. I understand that your people may have inhabited this, but if it's 9,000 years ago, you don't know if you're direct descendants or not because your family could move back and forth. And that was one of the things, and I need to finish the book off. It's not even that long, but the Big Medicine Wheel, they said that everyone that has been to the site, and we're talking Indians that would have claimed it, all claim it's not theirs. It's something that they've visited over thousands and thousands of years. And you know, they're kind of like one where, you know, we respect it, we would go there, but we didn't build it. And and they're saying it may go back 5,000, 10,000 plus years ago. It may go back even further. And it's not alone. There are a lot of these sites, apparently, talking to my I don't know which tribe he's from, but he's from Alberta, and lives on a reservation, which, you know, Darren Grimes, for anyone that listens to Grimerica, he says, oh yeah, there's a bunch of those. And yet I know that they dig into it, but no one else wants to do it. You have to have these third parties come in, and, you know, whether it's Randall Carlson, Graham Hancock, and a lot of these others, you have to have these people come in that do their own scholar on their own dime, to actually break the paradigm, because they're not wed to anything except their own intellectual curiosity. So that's one of the things, though. Yeah, and I'm not saying that the pyramid is not a basic structure. What gets me about it is how precise and how much work it takes to get there, you know, for what Monty's putting up there. Yeah,
right.
You know, it's
and you know, with Christopher Dunn's research, there could be something to that specific shape being an actual, you know, usable sort of technology that could, you know, be revolutionary.
Well, he's talking saws 30 feet across, and they're like, well, we haven't found anything like that. I said, well, then just how far back does this go? Because, you know, he's doing the radius, and I like Christopher Dunn because he's an industrial engineer, and so his stuff, when he was talking about, you know, even when he talks about the sculptures, and you look at it, what is the head of Ramses or whatever, and he's saying, oh, it's within like 2/100 of an inch. I'm like, hold on, you know, that's an amazing accuracy when you look at it, you know, for doing a face. And even he admits there are areas where it's not perfect. But I said, you have to do something. We've talked about lathes and everything else. I said, that's a highly technological. And then that's the question is, were they really built at that time, or did the Egyptian pharaohs just decide to adopt these things because they found them? That's an interesting point. Is, you know, you can't really date stone in most cases. Right. So now what you're dating it is you're, you know, as one person put it in there, is anyone that's ever seen spray paint on a bridge. That doesn't say who built the bridge. That's just someone that came back after the fact and put their name on it. So I
never heard of it that way, but that's pretty spot on.
Well, and I think it was David Forster that recently was putting out pictures of the symmetry of the Egyptian faces. They're perfect, as if they were done in computer-aided drafting, with all the tools and measurements and mirroring and all that.
That's what amazes me from an engineering standpoint, the level of accuracy that takes. And then the other question is, why do you need that much accuracy? That's the other part that amazes me, because you don't need accuracy for something good enough. We know this. You need accuracy for a reason.
Right. That's good. That's a really good point, because there are other statues elsewhere where the lack of symmetry, because that was actually the way the person looked, wasn't, you know, airbrushed up or whatever, you know, in stone. They just said, this is how he looked. This is how we're going to sculpt it. This is the way the person looked. But with the pharaohs and things like that, the exact, mirror perfection was a thing that, back then those people didn't look like that.
No.
No people look like that. Everyone's eyes are off at least a little bit. Everyone's nose is just a little bit crooked. The cheekbones,
Right.
everything. And I can tell you, I do computer aided drafting, right? I design things, and you make things mirrored and perfect across the board because you can, because it's easy. Not because it's needed or wanted, but because it's an easy method of doing it. What kind of method did they have that made it easy for them 6,000 plus years ago? That's what I get from
That's
that.
a really good point, Nathan.
Yeah, because I use CAD, and to make something symmetrical, I take something imperfect, cut off one side of it, flip it, and boom, it's symmetrical. It's perfect because it's easy. It's a small method that is able to be done easily, not because it's necessary. It's not necessary. Even in CAD, I'm making action figures over here, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like, okay, this guy, I printed his head,
Yeah.
right? It is symmetrical. It didn't need to be, but why did I do it? Because it's
Do you
easy.
think- Okay, guys, check this out. One way I do things like that in 3D without any, computer stuff is I make a mold.
And
Okay.
I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you about that, but here's my question. They're doing it out of granite. And
That's a big mold.
well, not only
And
is it
it's
big-
granite.
Yeah.
Right.
Are
What
they
if it's
melting?
not?
Yeah, go
What
ahead.
if
Sorry.
it's not exactly? What if they found a way to turn it into they found a way to liquefy it and then re-solidify it?
That's a theory I've heard. I don't know, and this is where I try becoming very well grounded. That would be very easy if they could do it. I don't know if they could. As part of the other part is, when we're looking at precision, this is the other part. Like even with your mold there, if it's off by a little bit, you don't usually care that much because people don't notice. But boy, when you're in hundredths of an inch, that takes massive amounts of skill. I mean,
Well, what if they use something like that plant Maria was talking about? Something found in nature. Maybe it's not found anymore, or we don't know to use it as such. And then you just squish the stone into a mold.
I think that would be really cool. For me, and this is what I'm saying based off of what I've looked at. And again, if they can do it, that's the other part that I said is if our ancestors could do that and they didn't require super high technology, imagine what we could do with our technology if we knew their techniques. And that's why I look at it that way. Is instead of trying to necessarily go through everything, if we have a way of doing it that's simpler, that allows us a better result. We could do we could do some really amazing things.
Where'd they get the mold?
Well, how did they make the mold so perfect is the question.
I was trying to work that out too, Joe, because I can make a half a mold, but I can't figure out how do you reverse it unless. Yeah, you kind of got me there, but it's.
I'm going to bring up a little thing. Is you can do half a mold, right, and then maybe once you get half of it done and you make it nice and smooth, is maybe you do half the other part. And then, you have the little lines and you're going to have to figure out a way to smooth those lines out to get rid of those lines. But you're right. How do you do it when it's granite? I mean, granite's probably anywhere when you're looking about 165 to maybe 180 pounds per cubic foot. I mean, that's a lot of weight, People forget about just how heavy this stuff is. But those are the ideas I love to hear about. And like I said, Christopher Dunn, I liked his book on the lost technology of Egypt. He doesn't tell you how they did it. He just says they did something, and it looks like they did it this way. But they had to have some kind of machine to do it. And he says, we don't know where that machine is or where it was found, which really leads to the question is, if they did do this, and let's assume it was done, 14,000 years ago, and they took the machine somewhere else, and it got, when we're talking about these massive floods, we all talk about the flood itself, which to me, like I said, is if things are hitting the ice sheets, that of course is causing massive flooding. But then the other part is it's sending huge amounts of water in the air. Well, that water goes up and it has to come down at some point. So when you start getting 40 days of rainfall, I can understand that. It's because rain falls and then it evaporates again and it falls again, and you have to wait till all this stuff settles out. And anyone that's, I don't know if anyone's read Rising Tide about the 1927 floods on the Mississippi, you begin to realize that that's just a little tiny fraction of what occurred. And holy, and now you get something that's 100,000 times larger. We have nothing equivalent to even compare that to. Well, maybe if you build a small little sandcastle, then you watch the waves come in. But
yeah, scale model.
Yeah, well, you have to make a scale model, and then you have to make sure that it can be washed away. That's. But I've been on top of Steamboat Rock, and that was pretty cool. And then we went to Missoula. You're looking 2,000 feet over the landscape, and that's how high the water went. And it just amazes you on the whole thing. And what amazes me is there's evidence for it. They're all dancing around it, and they found, I forgot what the meteor's called, but they found a meteorite that's like 3,000 kilograms or something like that. It's huge. And then they just pretend like, oh no, no meteorite hit, even though it was carried by the giant flood that we all admit occurred. And then we took this meteorite that's almost solid iron and took it over to New York. But I'm like, everything fits. I said, okay, that fits. Now, who knows what our society is no one's doing underwater exploration under 100 feet, over 100 feet deep. It's just too expensive. And who knows what's under the water?
Well, like the Rock of the Lakes pyramids in Wisconsin. Those are only known about because when you fly over and the weather is just right, you can see them. But nobody's really been down there to them.
Well, no one that we know of.
All right.
It occurs to me the answer is kind of simple of what they're trying to hide. It's not so much they're trying to hide, is they're trying to keep us down.
Oh, they're trying to fit a certain narrative.
Well, if any sort of technological advance keeps us from, becoming more technologically advanced. And
they want us to need them.
We've seen what we've done when we got to a certain point with a really new offensive weaponry technology. We used it. Even if it's other people who just think they're wiser and smarter than us, knowing that, well, there's other weaponry around the bend that makes nuclear technology, look like child's play. And we already got that, and look what we did with it. The minute we developed it, we freaking used it. We come up with some sort of, even more devastating weapon, we're going to use it. We never develop a weapon and just sit on it. We find someone to use it against.
Well, and a perfect example is when you look at biological items for weapons, even when they're not used. Yeah. Well, even when they're not used, the problem is, as much as people want to say that they're safeguarded, what was the last case of smallpox in the United States in the 70s? Someone had just put smallpox in a box. That was the only thing that they did, is they put it in a box, and the researcher came over and accidentally opened it. That there was that one. There was the and I did a lot on the hoof and mouth disease that they had for the sheep. And you look over in England in 2008, after they had the big problem, and they found out that their scrubbers didn't quite work properly, and it got released on the outside, and so then they had another round of hoof and mouth disease. You've got that one. There are all sorts of these cases, and you're kind of going, now hold on. Why are we trying to do gain of function and it makes these diseases more dangerous. How is that benefiting humanity? And this is the problem that I have with, and I'm going to say, and sorry for anyone that doesn't like this, when you start shearing science from God, then people no longer have the humanity to say, maybe we shouldn't do this. And that's what amazes me on this, is this is why I love, the old scientists back in the day used to use science to understand God. And nowadays it is kind of, if you don't believe in a moral framework, then that allows you to get Dr. Mengele and those kinds of people. Oh, well, we say capitalism, but I want to say that it's more than, it's not even necessarily capitalism. I think that a lot of it just comes down to, because even the old robber barons, if you look at them, they gave away most of their money when they got older because they believed in some kind of divine God. And even if they were trying to make up for all the evil they had done before, they were doing that. But now look at it. There is it reminds me of the old aristocracy who became so separated from their people that now it's just like, you're just cattle. We don't care about you. You say anything, we will crush you. And it's all about maintaining their power. To me, if you're really going to do it, isn't the goal to make everyone rich? And that's not what it seems like the people are who want anymore. It's, we don't want you to be powerful. We don't want you to do anything. We don't want you to be empowered. I said, well, that's completely different. I mean, look at, what was it, Carnegie? Carnegie was not a nice man. And yet he, later on in life, he promoted a lot of things, such as libraries and things to spread knowledge among people. I mean, these people, after they became older and made their millions or almost billions, they said, oh, maybe there is a God and there's an afterlife, and I'm going to try making up for it. But here's the thing: is we're no longer cash cows if they're making us poor. If you want, the more money and resources I have, and the more that I put into the system, the better off it is. But the goal now seems to be reducing my stuff.
They no longer need us.
Yeah. Well, they say they no longer need us, and then they find out I can't do anything. This is why I tell my son I want to become a plumber or an electrician.
They'll no longer need plumbers or electricians. AI.
I've noticed, as much as we have AI, have you noticed it's not really any better? I understand where they want to go with it, but if you don't have a plumber that knows how to do it, then how can you program it? That's what gets me. Look at what happened with what was that system that they had where the Northeast lost, where they couldn't get gas and stuff, and they said, well, we don't have the people that know how to operate the machines anymore. I said, wait a minute, we had these people 30 years ago where we could run it, and now you have what was that? They got a virus or something, and they could not manually operate even the basics for it because of a virus. I said, how do we get here? And I'm going to say the same thing happens with dams, because that's the area that I've worked on, is they get rid of the dam tender, they get rid of all the workers, and they say, well, we're just going to remotely observe it. Okay, you're remotely observing it. Guess what? It still takes you 5 hours to get there, by which time it's going to fail. It's not a better system. Your better system, and I know it's a little bit more expensive, was to have a guy that actually lived in a house right next to the dam. And guess what? When something went wrong, he could go out there. That's what amazes me, is we're not, with an AI, we actually become more fragile, not less fragile.
Yeah, I can give you an example here locally. There is a ferry that used to travel across the river. Now we have all these fancy bridges, but there was before the bridges came around in the 40s, I think, there was a guy, and he ran a ferry boat for people to get across the river. That was the best way to do it. And they paid them all the time to do it because that was the way it needed to be done, because they didn't have the bridges then. They didn't have all the interstates and everything at the moment. The ferry was the best way to do it. Else you couldn't get there.
I'm saying, I look at dams now, and they're all decrepit. I mean, even when you look at our infrastructure and things. And so when I look at the elites, and you can see it right now, I think they're even freaking out over Europe over the whole, Ukraine-Russia thing. You thought you could rule everything, but you don't even know how to do the basic stuff that we expect you to do. You can't even run you can't even run the countries okay. And now, at the end of the day, you still need men to go out there and physically do stuff. And if you're going to replace everyone with machines, guess what? We don't need elites anymore either. That's what they seem to forget. Okay, well, are we going to truly go for an AI? And I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. That's what amazes me in this whole thing. And you can tell they're freaking out over this, that they're losing control over India and China and Russia and the African countries. It's because we got rid of our manufacturing here in the United States. And I mean, I don't want to get too political on that, but at the end of the day, for the basic stuff, and it is things are not getting any better after COVID. You shut everything down, and all of a sudden everyone realizes just how fragile our system is nowadays. And I'm kind of bad about this, but when I was growing up as a kid, women used to know how to sew. Women would take clothes. Well, they would take clothes and put patches on them. And yeah, okay, that's fine. Well, you're kind of poor because they put patches here and there. Yeah, but people were useful at that point. And then I was hearing, people freaking out because they didn't know how to cook. I mean, that's a basic life skill. How do you not know how to cook, especially with the appearance of YouTube? Go turn on the YouTube thing and figure out how to make pasta. I mean, come on. I mean, I taught my son when he was 7 on how to cook. It's not that hard. Eggs and pasta. You can survive off of that.
Just getting everything to come out at once is the problem. Cooking is easy. The timing is the hard part.
Oh my God. And we all know that any of us guys like myself who just cook an entire Thanksgiving dinner by yourself, it's all about the freaking timing. Thank God we have the microwave to heat that shit up when you don't get it right.
Well, and I'll be honest, I use the sous vide because I can't overcook a lot of stuff. But one year my son asked me to make pumpkin pie, and I wanted a certain type of pumpkin pie, and it was like, that's a lot of effort. Next time we're just going to go to the store and get key lime pie. That I like a lot better. But I mean, my pumpkin pie was good, and I can say this because my friend's mother-in-law tasted. She said it was good, but then she went for a second piece. I said, people don't go for a second piece unless they don't like it. I mean, if they don't like something, they never go for a second helping. So I said, all right. So that passed her test. But but instant mashed potatoes. I'll be honest, instant mashed potatoes to me are pretty good if you know how to mix them up right. It tastes just as good as regular mashed potatoes. But yeah, I don't understand this whole thing.
Don't let Connell hear you say that. He will flip a freaking. Yeah, he'll flip out.
Where is Connell? Was he with y'all earlier?
Yeah, he had a massive headache and wanted to go to bed early.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
I know Connell can make more food than I can, but when I still say I'm going to have ribs or something, it's like, well, can guy come over to your house? I was like, sure. Did I have steaks?
Well, if you're going to cook for Connell, you better be prepared. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, here's what I do is I'll make the steaks. You can make the side dishes. How about that? I'm mostly a carnivore, but that's what I meant. It's funny that these basic life skills that we used to have, not that I'm the best, but I'll open up and look at how to do things. But most people don't know how to fix their cars or change their oil or change an air filter. I mean, how are we surviving in this aspect? And this is why when I look at certain parts, I go, our future in 100 years? They're going to look back and say, you know what? We had to have aliens because no one else could fix these machines. And we're just like, really?
Or cook, or clean, or sew, or farm.
I know. Well, how about doing preserves? Let's make preserves and put stuff into canning.
Oh! Don't even get me
I got
started
2
on
pressure
that.
cookers.
Yeah, you know what? They're taking those products off the market. They're intentionally taking all of the sealing waxes and all of the other, the glass jars and the canning materials. In some places, you are not allowed to do that.
Well, look, what is it, Minnesota or something under Whitmer was trying to get rid of like heirloom seeds and stuff. I'm like, hold on here. You know what do
He
you
who
care?
controls the food controls the society.
Oh, yeah, but this is what gets me about it is, what do you care if I have heirloom seeds? Because I'm obviously not going to do a lot, and that's the one thing that amazed me. I may buy some planter boxes at some point just so I can grow up stuff. But what the people used to have freedom gardens, and people of my generation before.
Well, because you're using that horrible word freedom.
Yeah, but I mean, it's who the hell cares? We all admit that, let's stop using seed oils and everything else. It's the same thing that happens with.
Who cares? Bill Gates. He doesn't want you to have farms. He wants to own all the farms. And if you own farms, then you won't buy his stuff, and then he doesn't make his money, and then you have independence, which is another bad word.
And his imaginary meat.
Oh, well, there's the Beyond Meat, and then there's eating bugs. And I'll be honest, I don't mind trying bugs, but I don't want to force to be eating bugs. Don't force me to eat food. Let me choose what I want to eat.
Dude, you can't eat bugs. I've already seen a whole bunch of info on the fact that those crickets, those will kill you.
Well, see, and I've been to Mexico. Well, no, I've been at the edge of Mexico. I've been on the border for Mexico. When I went over to Mexico, they do have some of the traditional stuff. But what gets me about, looking at these things, one is you have to be careful in what you buy. But I was talking to one lady, talking about what the Aztecs would eat. And there are like grubs and mealworms that are over there, but they were eating like under the agave and stuff like this, So I was like, oh, those really sound cool. And I'm talking to one lady, she says, yeah, they're really good, but no one's advertising those type of bugs. They're advertising the bugs that are just disgusting. And the other point is, it's the same reason, like, I'd rather get fresh caught fish. If you go and put them in farms, they're not as healthy as they would be if they were free roaming. You don't have free roaming crickets and stuff like that. You don't have the free roaming locusts. You have
Stay away from the crickets, dude. That will kill you.
I see no need to eat them, and I find them pretty disgusting myself. Just because every year we are swarmed by billions of crickets over where I live. Like, you sweep up every day because there's a layer of crickets all over here. Well, and Monty's right. We over here. Well, that used to be a big thing. And even when I was in Chicago, my landlady would grow tomatoes in her backyard. But you think that in this era where they're talking about that food could become a scarcity, our government would be saying, you know what? You all should be getting herb gardens. You should all be putting up window boxes if you live in an apartment. And then, how about this is what really gets me is the cities, because it's the lower level stuff that really gets you. You're not allowed to have chickens. Why can't I have chickens? Chickens are kind of friendly. It's nice to have some eggs. And I understand not having too many chickens, but a lot of places. What's that?
Roosters.
Well, a lot of them will ban roosters, but they don't allow any chickens at all because they consider them livestock. I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, you're not allowed to have a rooster. That I understand. It's like having a peacock. But chickens are not that loud. I mean, I like chickens. They're soft and fluffy, and if you have to eat them, you can. But a lot of times they produce eggs. I like Americanas just because they have the coolest looking eggs. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but they have the blue-green eggs, and some of them are kind of pink. And those eggs are huge. I have to laugh because, anyone that's actually raised some chickens, the stuff that they call large is tiny for chicken eggs. It's not very big. And how in the world, talk about the biggest marketing scam. I mean, I got some eggs that I couldn't even close the top of the cartons, of the normal cartons, because they're too big. Wait a minute, these aren't large eggs. They're normal sized
Monty,
eggs.
where do you live, Monty?
He's in the UK.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah, he's in the UK. He
Oh
lives over
yeah,
there.
you're going to have a real problem there. I have friends who have ranches and farms, so I get all sorts of produce.
Well, I'm going to say this much, and I'm going to buy some more. I need to go buy some cherries, and I have pomegranates, because pomegranates, I have seen those grow in the Afghan desert where there was no water for 4 months. Now I think that they did come over and water them every so often, but pomegranates. I've got 8 pomegranates sitting outside, which I need to plant before the end of the year. I got some jujubes, which are supposed to be the Chinese dates. Those are supposed to work out pretty well. I'll put that at the edge of my farmland.
My pomegranates drive me nuts.
Why?
They're all over the place.
Yeah, we've got a couple of pomegranate trees here in California, and it's freaking cold as balls out here, and they're growing just fine.
Oh,
right.
Pomegranates survive in deserts in freezing temperatures. That's what gets me about a lot of it. And I said, oh yeah, and how much does a pomegranate cost when you go to the store? $2 to $3 per pomegranate.
And I also raise the cactus out here.
Yeah, we got that too. I won't eat it, but we don't.
Yeah, if it gets to the point there's nothing else to eat, you've got those.
Well, I have pine trees too. I'll eat those first before I'll eat the freaking cactus.
Well, actually, I've seen them here at the local supermarket here with the prickly pears. All they do is they do that on the outside, and I've actually had the prickly pear fruit. You just burn the outside to get rid of the blockheads, and then you just go into the fruit. It's not that you can't have certain stuff, but even things like mushrooms. I've grown mushrooms in my bathroom. I have 2 bathrooms, and so it was a good place to have like humidity for the bathroom I don't use. And I would just put them out there, and I grew some nice oyster mushrooms, and those are really good. Yeah, do you get prickly pears? Yes, prickly pears are all over the place here. I don't know. Joe, are you in El Paso? I don't know. Okay, so you're in El Paso, and I'm in Central Texas. Yeah, prickly pears are weeds out here, Monty. But the local HEB has them. You'll find them when they're in season.
And I still wonder when there's a season on them, because unless you're looking for the tunas, the pads themselves can be harvested anytime. Yeah,
and the fruit has a certain time frame, but yeah, I mean, I love pomegranates for what's there. If I was in the right climate, I would love to get dragon fruit. But I can say this much: I went to Cambodia, and the fruit there was far, far superior than what you find anything here in the United States, because they pick it when it's ripe, not when it's like a week before or so. Why I'm still single? Yeah, okay, James L. That's fine, but but the great thing about oyster mushrooms are fantastic. Lion's mane, those are both really easy to cook. I told someone if they ever want me to become vegan, they can pay for my food. At which point they're going to go broke really fast, because fresh chanterelle mushrooms are $50 a pound. So, yeah, yeah, exactly. No one's going to be funding that.
Well, I hate to tell you this, the boss is yelling for me. So.
Okay.
Uh-oh, Joe.
Oh,
it's all good.
It's all good. She knows.
Yeah.
But yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail your whole discussion there, Nathan.
Yeah, it's all good. It's a good discussion.
All quantum.
It's food. That's how we got here.
Well, not only that, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Owen and Joe, you guys are in the same freaking state.
Yeah, but let me put it this way: Joe is probably closer to you than he is to me.
It's a really big state. Talking 12 hours away.
I understand that, but you know what I mean?
We don't even live in the same climate. I gotta let you guys go.
Have a good one, Joe. Thanks for coming by. Okay,
okay, James. You got to come in now, because we got to have 4, man. Otherwise, it's lopsided.
I know, but no, Shadow. I think it's true. I think that he is closer to you than he is to me. Uh, it's a good 8+ hours to drive out to El Paso from here.
Oh, so yeah, I remember driving 12 hours to Dallas.
Yeah. Well, I'm about 3 hours south of Dallas, or 2 hours
Okay.
south of Dallas. So, it's. I just remember driving all day over to Junction, or not Junction. It was Fort. I can't remember. I'd have to go look at a map. But yeah, it's well. Have a good night, Monty, or good morning.
Take care, Monty. Nice meeting you, man.
Yeah,
But-
I've known Monty for several years now, and I'm so
Okay.
glad he's come over to the Quantum Show. I
Yeah.
really am. Known
So-
him several years now.
So I'm going to ask you a question, Nathan, because I
Yep.
think there's something to be said for this. Is for like regenerating and healing the soul. I've noticed that the more that I get into dealing with plants and stuff, the more
Yeah.
that I feel connected to the world. The same thing like whenever I walk out barefoot, out in
That's so good for you.
and yet when I did that in Chicago, I understand there are needles and stuff, but I was very fortunate I didn't find any. But just walking around, people gave me I kid you not, I could have probably been carrying a severed head and a machete in one hand, and people would have made more eye contact with me than me walking barefoot. I mean, it was like, whoa, I mean, they were afraid to look at you in the eye. It's like,
Yeah.
holy hell.
Well, because they're so disconnected.
And actually, I met some people from, I guess, South America. They're like, oh, when I lived there, I used to walk around barefoot, but it's kind of the thing that they, only poor people walk around barefoot. I understand.
Well, you know what? There's a reason to wear shoes, okay? And
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong, I don't like to do the barefoot thing, but I do know for a fact how good it is for you, especially, I used to tell certain people, to even if you just, stand on the grass or the dirt or whatever, just for a little bit, just, pretend like you're walking in place or whatever. Hey, there he is. Man of the hour. I bet he's walking barefoot right now.
I've
Oh, there we
got
go.
flip flops on.
Well, we have to remember he's in the land of where everything will kill you if you step on it.
Mm.
Which actually I have to laugh because that's what people think the South is as well when they live up, from those northern climates.
Yeah, it
It's
isn't.
like when people say, "What do you know about the US?" And you're like, "Oh, that's the place where there's a school shooting every 3.5 minutes, right?"
Yeah, you're
and every-
dodging bullets and crocodiles.
And everybody
And bears.
has like hamburgers like catapulted into their window. Like,
No, James. Well, I've got to be honest. The last part is true.
sometimes it's true.
I-
Yeah.
I haven't had
Sometimes.
a hamburger in almost 2 weeks. What are you talking about?
Oh, okay.
That's
I
pretty
am
good.
going through withdrawals, though.
Oh,
I like the Portuguese chicken burger with chili on it. That's nice.
Sounds good.
If the other part is, and I just have to laugh at this, is the about these things called yoga toes, which are supposed to spread your toes out a bit. And man, my feet felt a hell of a lot better while using them. Well, since we're
Do you put your yoga toes on and then watch Bette Midler movies and eat ice cream and get in touch with your feelings?
well, just for you. So anyone that has any weird fetishes there we
We're
go.
gonna have a good cry. We're gonna have a good cry together on the couch while you have your yoga toes on.
There you go. Just
Yeah.
get that. Yeah, there. Just for your little-
Stretching is so good though, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
it fixes like half the stuff that is wrong. I stretch it all the time. Like
well,
it's good for you.
Well, it was funny because I first put them on and I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize that my toes were so tight. And
Yeah.
it's funny because all of these, I've been having problems with my feet just because you sit around and if you don't exercise them right, you start twisting them in weird ways. And boy, putting them
Yeah,
on.
I play piano. I play piano with mine every morning for about 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Omanal, you were warming up to a question. Did you about
Oh,
going barefoot and being in
I'm just
nature
saying
and plants.
yes. Yeah, I was just going to leave it at that, because I know you probably have really good ideas. I mean, I know we were talking about the water temples and stuff. And I think there's something to be said, as much as we can complain about James Cameron's Avatar, I think he took it to that way out there level. But I think there is some truth of feeling connected to your surroundings instead of just everything being out there. It's like everything seems to be used to prevent us from actually being connecting with our universe and our world, which is what it
overstimulation, distraction.
I heard a conspiracy theory that Avatar was self-disclosure about remote viewing.
The movie Avatar. I heard a theory that it was Pocahontas retold in sci-fi to sell toys and make money. That was just a conspiracy theory I heard about Avatar.
I heard that they just stole Dances with Wolves and put blue people as Smurfs, but I just heard that he saw Smurfs and then but
I don't know how the industry is doing in California these days, but I always wanted to do like an adult parody of that film called Dances with MILFs.
The industry is alive and thriving. Go for it.
Right. Excellent.
Oh, I don't know, man.
I'll go hang out at the bingo on Thursdays.
But getting to what you were talking about, being in contact with the earth. Yes, there's definitely something to it. And practicing pagan here, right? So, I mean, yes, there's definitely in practice it's called grounding, and it's been shown lately by witch talking about plants in general. Plants are the earth. They come from the earth. And I'm still working on this one myself, right? So on a quantum level, on a spiritual quantum level is what I'm talking about. I wish I had hard science to back this up, but it doesn't exist yet because we're not there yet. But magic has had it for a long time.
When have we ever been, for hard science?
Oh, I like the hard science. I'm a techno pagan. I got you.
I'm just messing around.
But yeah,
okay.
I mean, in magic, it's grounding. You ground yourself, and you are more aware, more relaxed, and you can accomplish more. Your thoughts are clearer, and without all the distraction, you can do that. And I just recently saw one person talking about plants on a spiritual level. Now, why would you do this? Why would anyone do this? Because it works. We don't know why it works. But yeah, if you take off your shoes and go walk around in the grass, your feet, first thing you will notice in less than an hour is your feet will start to get healthier. As long as you're not stepping on nails and broken glass, your feet will start to get healthier. Any kind of calluses start to soften up. Corns, same thing. Huh?
So Nathan's killing me with his new mustache.
Mustache?
You're talking Nathan or James L?
I mean Jim. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, I was about to say.
He's got the dry brush stash.
Yeah. I will see your miniatures and raise you cowgirls riding dinosaurs.
Nice.
Alien cowgirls riding dinosaurs.
Nice. Have you been painting that one?
I did not paint this one yet. This is from the store, and this is printed.
Cool.
I need to paint them.
I finally got my son to play Conan with me, so
Oh, sweet! Like Do you mean the board game with all the gems and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, that thing is really cool.
I got him to play one game with it, and then he won, and that was really cool. Along with all of the, and then I have all the expansions and stuff, and I realized I spent way too much. But now I've noticed for they have all these sales right now. I think I've bought everything I want. Now I'm just buying for other people, which is fine. As I was like, oh, I'd like to get this board game. Like, no one's going to play this with me, so I'll just have to put it off in the back. So that stopped me from buying a lot of stuff, fortunately. So I most stuff I've been buying right now is stuff I should have bought 6 months ago for myself. So I'm like, oh, okay,
Well, I only have this much painting to get through.
Oh, well. I mean, how long is that going to take? 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, probably. That's all
James,
metal.
you got a hell of a place there, dude.
Yeah.
You've got a hell of a place there. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. I have to basically paint stuff to get my gaming table back.
I saw that. That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. I just cut sick for like 2 years buying models.
Oh,
It started with one board game. One.
Which board game?
It was like a Command and Colors board game, and then I was like, "Oh, I'll just buy some models to like replace the blocks, like good old Warhammer days." And then it was like, "Oh, I won't get into wargaming proper, but I'll just get a whole bunch of board games." And then it was like, "I'll just get a bunch of like hex war games." And it was like, "Oh, I can fit in like 15 mil." Oh, and then I'm doing 6 mil. Then I'm doing 172, and now I'm doing 28 as well. So
you know what though? I'll be honest.
It makes me happy.
They're getting too big for the stuff I want to do. Is 15 mil to me seems to be better for that. But still, speaking of toys,
15 mil great, man.
Yeah.
15 mil.
is great.
I was doing 15 mil all day during Bruce's game, and I'm loving it. I ordered some more. Can't wait to get them in the mail. So expect to see a lot more 15 mil on.
Which ones did you get? Which ones did you get?
I got the gelatinous cubes.
Mm-hmm.
I got the and two groups of like characters, or no, I got the undead, the greater undead pack that's got like 15 pieces, vampires and ghouls and stuff, and then I got the goodly party or something like that. It's got some paladins, but it's also got like thieves and witch hunters. It was like a nice mix, so I can get like a really nice, good little party. I only spent like $25.
So I'm going to ask Nathan this because it was a little bit for the toys, and I don't know what everything that you collect, but my mother got a bunch of and this was probably 20 plus years ago, of the military collectors Barbies and GI Joes. So she's got like Colin Powell and a few others out there. Oh, you're muted,
great.
Nathan.
That's great.
You're
I
muted.
didn't even know that was the thing.
Yeah, it was. But no, it's funny because she has that whole thing up there, and
You're muted.
yeah.
I'm still around.
You know what? That's a perfect thing.
China.
The one of the videos I have on there is I got a Trump pinata when he won election, and then I let his mother beat it and she lost a lot. It made her feel a lot better. But yes, I just have to. I think they're awesome for that. I think that all politicians should be made fun of, and the more you can make fun of them, the better.
Huge.
Yes. Anyway, Nathan, I was trying to hear what you were saying about the GI Joe Barbies.
Yeah, I was muted. I had forgotten. I was typing.
Sure.
Yeah, I know of them. I don't collect any of them because they're really hard to get. They're not overly mass produced, and they're expensive when you run across them. So
Yeah.
and they're big. They're 1/6 scale, and I'm like, oi, I'm not into that.
No, I was just curious on that, but no, my mother did it because they were the size that we were when we were kids before they got to the smaller ones, the 1980s, the 1970, GI Joe scale. But yeah, my mother got it like.
I
Oh,
actually had some of those when I was a kid. That's how old I am.
I had one or two of them when I was a kid, and that was about it. And then, then I remember coming back from Germany and saying, "What are these GI Joes? I thought they used to be here." And then I had a friend of mine that used to buy Barbies so he could marry off his GI Joes, so they could have. I just thought that was funny.
A likely story.
In scale is in play.
That's right. Anatomically incorrect, but no,
Here's
they're all smooth.
I'm an owl. Here's some 2 mil pike and shot.
See, and to me, that is perfect for vehicles. Because I used to try doing. I had a game that literally was like real scale, and when you have an MLRS that shoots 40 kilometers, you have to play in a in a true field.
Yeah, and this is the fortress that goes with it.
Oops. Yeah, no, we all try and do the opposite. Oh, that's really, I like that. I really do like those too.
Yeah, well, for like campaign maps and stuff.
Yeah.
Just a couple of washes. That's it.
See, I find those in some ways I prefer those over the seeing the individual models. I think that those are really cool, and especially
there's probably like 1,000 pikemen on here.
that's it.
They've got the pikes upright and like the flags.
It doesn't do it justice. Though.
Shadow, you're muted.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's gonna go good with galleys and galleons.
Yeah, well, there's a website called Pico Armor, and that's they do like terrain for that kind of scale, and it's very cheap. It's like $3 for a lighthouse.
So I'm gonna have to laugh at you, James. If you use 1 in 1,200 scale and you use an aircraft carrier, it's still almost a foot long.
Yeah, but the only ships that I have, like proper, are a Greek and Persian fleet in that scale. So they're a bit shorter. They're quite dainty, actually.
Sure.
They're sort of like 6 mil vehicles, if anything. But yeah, like I've just been doing some priming today. I don't have much paranormal news. But
my son keeps claiming that his house is haunted, and I try to bring him on every time. Says, "Well, son, if you want to talk about it," and he goes, "No." But what he's complaining about is all the dogs that have died at his house over the years, rattlesnakes, injuries, neighbors shooting. But the
existential malaise.
I don't know. That's one of the things. Well, let's see. One of the dogs was stepped on or crushed by a stallion, and the dog was only like 5 pounds. I mean, it was old, riddled with a cancer, and the dog did not die for normal means. Apparently one of the horses came over and I assume it's intentional because horses know where they put their feet, and stomped the poor little dog. But anyway, he talks about things moving and stuff like that. And I've tried to get him to talk to you, Nathan, a couple of times to explain this stuff because
I would like to hear that. Yeah, I would like to see if he's got any
you know
evidence,
what?
pictures,
You know
or
what?
anything.
You know what? Maybe we can schedule it so your son and my son can come on, and then maybe they won't feel so. You know what I mean?
My son, we'll only talk about. My son is super shy. Even when he's going through there, I have to sort of kick him in the butt. But anyway, I give him an option every time, and if he doesn't, then I say, "Okay, it's time for you to go to bed. It's about 11 o'clock. You need to go to bed." So,
Right.
But no, I sometimes because I'll be honest about this. I don't always believe his stories, but something. You know what? I don't always believe his stories, but I know that you would probably explain stuff better to him than I can about if they're real or not. And I don't mean that in a judgmental way. I mean you just saying, yeah, that sounds about right, or no, that's not. That's the kind of thing.
Well, there are kids. We've got to assume that they're telling the truth, and the more you treat them that way, the more they will be on.
I'm not too worried about my son. He's kind of lazy about lying. It's the really simple lies, like, yes, I did my homework, Well,
Right.
okay, really didn't do my homework, but the other stuff. The kid can't keep a secret.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. He's a good, honest kid. He's super shy because he's been homeschooled, which actually makes most sense regardless. But there are no other kids within a mile of him, and there are very few neighbors anyway because he lives out in the countryside. So, but he loves watching Ghost Adventures and the paranormal stuff. And I said, boy, that would be the kind of thing that he'd love to talk to Nathan about. And he was just like, no. I said, all right. But he loves to hear these stories about, ghosts and stuff. So
Cool.
is that
Well,
lemonade?
I try
there?
to encourage. Huh?
Oh, I'm just
Lemonade?
so.
This is Aussie ginger beer, mate.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Nathan.
No problem. But yeah, I don't have kids now,
Sure.
but I never would say, oh, well, you didn't see that, or it's your imagination. I
Yeah.
encourage that stuff because kids and dogs, they see more than we do. And when someone says, they have the best stories, and they're so simply perceived and put. How can you argue with them sometimes? Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I mean, what gets me about it is when I was young, 5 or 6, I could do remote viewing. Now it was only like within probably about 20 feet of myself, but I had the ability to look at myself from the outside into like, I could look outside my room, looking inside to see myself doing stuff. So I remember doing that. And then the other part is, I remember, like you said, I remember an instance where my dog was barking at a corner there, and everyone said our house, there was something weird about our house in Kentucky. No one would talk about it, but
It's Kentucky. It is weird. I can almost guarantee it.
Okay, well, when we lived there, it was funny because everyone's like, "Oh, that house," and it felt like something was in the house. Not malicious or anything, but there definitely felt like there was something there. And one day, our dog just started barking at a corner, and I mean, it was a blank corner, and she would neither move forward nor move back, which I just thought was really weird for her. But and then I had a friend in Kentucky, in Chicago, talking about her daughter, and they lived in a house, and the lady there passed away, and her daughter was just talking, and she said, "Well, who are you talking to?" And she went blah blah blah, and it was her daughter didn't know who owned the house, but they found out that it was apparently it was talking to the old owner of the house that had passed away. And it's just friends, and yeah, I definitely think there are things out there. There's nothing wrong. It just seems kind of odd for my son to talk about, he thinks that the dogs are haunting his house. So,
well, they may not be haunting, but they might be just lingering.
Yeah.
Not haunting, but lingering. Because we had dogs and cats pass away. I'm in Tennessee, so we've had a lot of dogs and cats pass away. And they come around. I feel my little dog that I had in El Paso, I feel him sometimes around here.
Okay.
And his attitude, his name was Teal'c. He from Stargate, right? And he was half Chihuahua, half something else because he was big. He wasn't no Chihuahua, he was big.
Yeah.
And I feel him sometimes. I don't hear him barking, but I don't have any recording devices with me at the moment either, or I don't think to pull out my phone.
Sure.
But that's the paranormal. That's just you never have the hardware when you need it. Or you're too wrapped up in the moment to use it, to distract yourself from it, to use your hardware.
Nathan.
Yeah.
I recommend one of these.
That is a microphone?
It's a digital recorder with built-in microphone.
Okay. I've got a digital recorder. I got two good ones. I've got a Sony and I've got a knockoff Sony, and they're really good. I have caught stuff.
The Sony ones are nice.
Yeah.
You can use it as a USB mic as well.
Yeah, I've got the one that it can hook up to USB, and you can use it as a mic or a storage device and all that stuff. Yeah, something I did an investigation. I was working as an assistant, I guess, manager at Dollar General, and okay, everything around Tennessee is haunted, but there was this $1 general store across town, and I was like, let's go check it out. I've heard things, right? And I don't know if it's hard to say if I got something or not, because it was a store in the middle of the night. I know the one over here by my house is haunted. I know it is because I worked in that one, and I saw someone in the aisle, and we were closing, and it was like 5 minutes to close. Nobody was there, and me and the assistant manager, the real assistant manager, I was like a stalker manager. We were there, and I see someone walk across the aisle, and I'm like, "Hey, who do we got in here?" She goes, "Nobody's in here tonight. Not right now. Everybody left." I'm like, "Who is that in over there by the trash cans?" And she was like, "What? What? Well, you saw somebody?" I'm like, "Okay, sorry." And another time, okay, I was walking down the far wall, and on the far wall we had all the makeup and stuff, and things that hair ties and cuticle scissors, finger files, things like that, right? I was walking down, and as I was approaching it, cuticle scissors went off the wall, threw themselves off the wall in front of me, across and down. And I tried to replicate that. And they weren't packed tight on the little, they were hanging on a peg, on a plastic package. And I tried to replicate, I could not get it to spring out. So yeah, I couldn't. I try to debunk all the time, right? I'm always debunking, and I couldn't replicate that. I tried over and over, like 6 or 7 times, trying to get this little package to fly out like it did, and every time it would just go straight down. Every time I tried, it would just go straight down. So, yeah, haunted.
So Nathan, I'm going to ask you a question. Why is it so haunted out in Tennessee and Kentucky? Just curious on what your feelings are for that.
This particular area was right where I'm sitting was Revolutionary War area. Down the road was Civil War area, and I don't know why it's so haunted. I have no idea, but I got 3 inside the house, and the cemetery has residents over there, and the church has residents up there too. I've seen them plain as day a couple times. It was unnerving, but this stuff happens to me so much. It's like, oh, hey, how you doing? You just walk past and just checking my mail, for real, dude.
Yeah.
And yeah, that one time I went to check the mail, and it was dusk, and I walked out, and the church has a little landing and stairs on the side of it, and I saw a figure standing there watching me. And what do you do? I live here, and I had to check my mail. I was like, hey, I just kind of, hey, how you doing? Just checking the mail. Nice to see you. And I kept walking. And when I went back, there was no figure on that landing. Yeah, lots of stuff in it. Okay, Revolutionary War. That was a hard time on a lot of people. And it was also colonial times in this area, because we got the river that goes right over by the house here, and branches of the river all through the area. And it was all basically maritime. Everybody had boats. They still have boats, but they go to the lake now or go to the river. But there were times when you could take a little small boat from right here behind this house all the way into town. Back then, it was Nashville hadn't really been established yet, so it was a long time ago. Revolutionary War, colonial times, and like 1720, 1730, and then later on, the history is amazing. around here. The history is amazing. This area is still owned by the same family as who settled Gower. And that has a lot to do with it too. It's something about bloodlines. But yeah, in the house, I have the kid who I do toys. He loves being in here playing around. I find stuff. He loves his strong woman dolls. Loves them. The matron, who I think was his mom or his boss, something happened one night. I heard noises. Okay, I got a door right here, and then on the side, there's another door to the master bedroom. I always hear this. It hasn't happened in a few days, but the doorknob will be moving, right? I'll hear it. The air conditioner here is not strong enough to blow the doors to make them clatter. It's just not that big of a thing. It's just a little one compared to the house. And I went out and I heard these noises. So I was like, got camera, let's go. I'm
Okay.
looking around. I go down the hallway that way. Got nothing. I swing it around to the door. Camera turns off. On the phone. Screen goes black. App crashes. I was like, huh, that's weird. Go over here. Reboot the phone. Hallway over here. It's fine. Go over there. Crashes. No idea. But it would, as I got to the door, not go in the door, and there's just the feeling like I'm only using it for storage right now. But when you're not supposed to go in there, you are made aware. I am made very aware. I get the prickles on the back of my neck and up down my arms. I feel all that weird energy. And I'm like, yep, I'm not going in there tonight. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Sorry, I didn't mean to get to going on local ghost stories. And then, did you see the show about the cemetery?
I've Pet Cemetery, the old Stephen King.
No. My Cemetery.
No, I haven't looked at that one.
Oh, dude, it was.
No. Which show? Which show was it about?
It was. It's called The Cemetery. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Let me see here. Let me make sure. Yeah, that was. I have never experienced anything like that before or after.
Wasn't it in October?
That was. I think it was a little before October. Maybe September. But yeah. It was okay. I don't know how quick I'll be able to tell this one. I'm actually going to have to wrap it up here in a few minutes, but we're here right now, right? Okay. It was night, and I was hanging out with my buddy Adana. She's another pagan witchy person, right? But she's a lot newer at this stuff than I am. I've been doing this stuff for 25 years, and she's a lot newer at it. And she goes, "Hey, Nathan, it's 2 a.m. and she works night shift at a gas station, and she goes, Nathan, can we go to the cemetery behind your house at 2 a.m.? I'm like, nobody's going to be around. Everybody's asleep. Sure. Come on. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Because, there it is. Quantum extension, a paranormal story, last night's event. I will put a link in the thing for you to get later. Okay. So she had to go change, and I was like, okay. And let me tell you, the cemetery is organized into two parts. You get the pretty part that's nice and maintained, the family part up in the front where the gate is, and then you get the back part. Not much is known about the back part. And Evolutionary War, not many records survived. So they've just recently found out that there are slaves buried all in that cemetery. Back then, it was illegal to do that. And that's, I'm just reporting. I don't say it's good or bad. I'm just saying that's the way it was back then. And here is, link is now posting. Okay. So we got here. It's a clear night, bright moon, bright stars, clear sky. Perfect. No flashlights needed, really. I had one, but I wasn't using it. We just let our eyes adjust. And the scariest part about being back there for me was falling, because I'm in the middle of the woods. Don't fall and hit my head on a big rock. That would be very bad. So that was what was scary. Okay, we went in, we were looking at headstones, we're paying attention to the way we feel about stuff. Everything's fine, maybe a little impatient, but fine. We get to going into the back. Out of nowhere, I get this fight or flight fear grip me, right? I don't know where it's come from. And I didn't realize this until a little while later. It's starting to get darker and blurry. And I don't know. I thought, well, it's the middle of the night. Maybe my eyes are just blurry at this. It's late. So I wasn't thinking about it, but it got darker. And then later on, I realized it got blurry. And I go, Adana, do you? And I'm still like terrified of something. It just came out of nowhere. And I'm like, Adana, do you feel that? And this is what, okay. I heard her, and it was like garbled. What she said was garbled to me, like it was going through an audio filter. Like, that's what I heard, right? I was, and I was trying to like, did I mishear? I'm trying to think, what did I hear, right? And then she is gone. She is just gone. It's now pitch black back there, very dark and blurry over here, and I don't know what to do. And I'm terrified of something. I see movement. Logic brain says it's the wind blowing a tree branch or something. I look over. Now I'm looking over. The back is over here. The front is over here. I look over to where I think I see movement. There's a figure standing there, regular person height, but you saw Predator?
Yeah.
Okay, you remember the Predator when he had his cloak on?
Yeah, where it gives you that weird shimmering effect.
Right. That's what I saw, except human shaped, not Predator shaped. Okay. I saw one, and I'm watching this thing make its way, bell ringing, make its way, walking with a purpose over where Adana disappeared at. And then I'm like, there's two more, just like right here. And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm watching these things make their way across. They're a little bit closer. The other guys on the far edge. They're making their way to where Adana disappeared. When I say disappeared, I mean like old school Twilight Zone walk through a blank door disappear effect. I saw her heel. I saw her, and then whoop, her heel gone. Can't hear her, can't see her. Of course, it's pitch black over there for some reason. And these three things pop up, and then I see a freaking fourth one. And it's like right on my right side. And I take one step back because I don't want to get, I don't know. I'm thinking about running at this point. But I take a step back, and this thing right in front of me. And I could, all right. You have heard us all talk tonight, right?
Yeah.
You've heard us all talk. Now, you can remember what we say. It's in there. Okay, now, I just said it's in there. Now, you're recalling now the words that I said. that's where this thing talked to me. It didn't use any words like verbal. It put words there. Like as we listen and it gets filed, that's where it materialized in my head. His words were, "You stay right here." And I could just feel the finger in my face, like, "You stay right here." And I literally did that. And it took off over toward the left side, the dark side too. And then I'm alone, all alone in a blurry, dark cemetery at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, here's what goes through my head. If Adana disappears, I'm going to get busted for murder.
Oh.
That's what went through my head. Practical thought right there. And I'm starting to shift gears going, I'm going into rescue mode. I'm about to reach in my pocket and I hear crunch and I still don't see nothing, right? Adana appears. She just appears. And I say, we got to go. And the blurriness clears up. The darkness is not dark anymore. It just, everything lightens back up to moonlight, starlight. And we tried to continue for a few minutes, but she has this necklace that she made from like Dollar Tree stuff. It gets broken. All the stuff flies around. And she goes, "Nathan, let me see your light." And I see her stoop down. And I'm like, "What happened?" "My necklace broke. There was no reason for it to break." And I looked at it, and it wasn't old, and it wasn't cheap. It was, nylon string,
Yeah.
this good stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, "Yeah, we got to go." And we got the hell out of Dodge. And I've never experienced anything like that before or since. And that was about the beginning of when all this stuff started happening. Now, what I did, I went a week. Okay. She wouldn't tell me what happened for 3 weeks. And she still doesn't have a great story. She doesn't have a great explanation. That day, she couldn't tell me. 2 weeks, 3 weeks goes by. I'm like, "Okay, stop. What happened in there?" And finally, I got something from her. She said she saw a hat on the ground. There's no hats. Okay. There's no hats. And she couldn't describe it very well. And she felt like the ground was sucking her down, like caving in around her feet and pulling her down. And she was having to trudge on. It's a cemetery. It's not, hills or shale or none of that.
Yeah.
It's not like a riverbed or nothing. It's a cemetery that's been established for literally 200 years. Okay. And I mean, there's a marker. 1776 is when the dude was born. And then it's still a cemetery all these years later. Anyway. And she said there was a hat on the ground. She felt a lot of anger. She saw no 4 guys in shimmering cloaks from the predator, nothing like that. And she couldn't, I don't know if she couldn't put into words what happened to her or what, but she didn't tell me for 3 weeks. And finally, I basically just, "Tell me what happened." And yeah, and that's what I got from her. So Maria will vouch for this if she's still here. She might not be here. She might have taken off. But I got my guide to talk to her guide, talk to her. It's a long way to get to the barn, but you got to do what you got to do when you're dealing with this stuff. And the fear was my spirit guide keeping me from doing something stupid, which that's logical. That makes perfect sense for me. And she was the one basically going, "Stop. You're doing something stupid," and making me basically afraid so I would stop. Because military training, right? when you get scared, you stop and you pay attention, or you listen for orders or something, but you don't just freak out, because that will get you shot, blown up, bear trapped, or eaten by whatever you're running away from. And so military was like, stop, pay attention after the fear. Like I said, it came out of nowhere. There was nothing to be afraid of except falling. And okay, I went a week and I thought, I got to live here. These, whatever residents back there are now mad at me. So what do I got to do? How do I make amends, right? How do I make it up to them? And I'm thinking, this is nothing new. People have been doing this kind of thing for thousands of years. So I look up, and ancient peoples would do food offerings. I was like, food offerings, that's a good idea. What do they eat? They're ghosts. Wait, they're country people. I'm country people. What do I like? Biscuits and gravy.
Oh.
So I go to, for real, I go to Waffle House the next week, early in the morning, and I get 2 big orders of biscuits and gravy, one for the front, one for the back. And I go out there, and when I walked up there, the feeling was, oh God, this guy, what's he gonna do now? And I did a ritual. It was more like a speech, or like, when you take food to your neighbor's house, how do you approach them? I did that. That's what I did.
Okay.
And I did it in the front, and I did one in the back. And when I left there,
I love it.
the feeling was totally different. Sorry, go ahead. What?
Oh, I love it. I spent a lot of time in historic cemeteries. So yeah, I really like those environments. They're usually very
you know what I'm
peaceful,
talking about.
Yeah, I mean, yours sounds like it has a bit of history, and you put the energy right, kind of thing.
Well, it worked. There haven't been any incidents, except sometimes I'll see something going on as I'm walking in my car. I just wave. Hey! What do you do? Did we lose? We lost James. He may come back. But yeah, that is my most recent ghost story. That's a story here. There's all kinds of stuff. I hear stuff every night, and every night I say, you can play with anything you want, just please be quiet about it.
Yeah, just let you sleep.
Right. Because it started happening the day I got here, and they didn't know me. Oh, the third ghost. I forgot to tell you about the third ghost. Okay, the matron, who you do not fucks with, the kid, and the former renter. He was a friend of the family here. His name's Charles, and he actually passed away in the living room, and someone found him. Well, I saw him in that room, and I heard him mess with. I'm moving boxes. I'm stacking them high to make room. I get my computer set up. I say, I moved the frozen foods from one fridge to another. So I cleaned this one out, and I took this ice tray out, and I just set it with ice in it on the counter. Get stuff put up, and I'm in here sitting, drinking water, taking a break because I've been moving boxes all day. And I hear crackety crack and clackety clack of a loud ass ice tray. You know the ice trays I'm talking about. You look at them, they make noise, right?
Yeah. You're talking about those plastic ones where you crack them. Yeah.
Right. Well, no, a big ice bin, the big ones that you hear them. Ice bin. I take the ice bin out and I set it on the counter because now it's full of no room for ice bin. And I'm like, I hear the noise. I'm like, oh, I was lazy. I didn't clean it, take the ice out of it. It's the ice breaking apart inside the thing. I'm like, okay. I go out there. I'm like, okay, I'm tired. I go up, I clean the bin out, and now it's sitting on a paper towel on the counter, and I set it there. I come back over here, I hear the same noise again. No reason this time, no logic this time. There's no ice in there to start breaking apart in a warm room.
Mhm.
And it's already room temperature because I washed it in warm water. So that's that. And when I was putting boxes in this room over here, I put a box down, I start to walk away, and I think I see a face go from beside a tower of boxes that I put up there. And oh, these toys, I've got a lot of toys for modding purposes, for inspiration, collection, whatever. At first, even now, they'll be moved. I'll find, oh, I've got an alien action figure like Xenomorph, and it's been sitting here along with all these others. Well, either the kid really liked it or he really did not like it because it got knocked over a couple times. And it's let me grab it real quick. It's right here. I don't even get to stand it up anymore because it keeps falling over.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if he really likes it or really does not like it. Hold on. I just leave it leaning now because it's a big, scary xenomorph alien, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think I did a pretty good job on that. That's my Vanta Black. And that's, I think I like that one. I wish it was not so fuzzy. You could see it, but cameras can't take pictures of this thing. It's so black. It is. And that's after. Well, anyway. So, yeah, the kids' room originally was next door, the next room over. But I moved the toys in here. So toys means kid. So kid comes over. And, well, this is a historic area. Like I said, you got the cemetery and the church. The church has been rebuilt a couple times. And one family has owned this entire area for 200 years. So, yeah. Why is this area haunted? No idea. There's been tons of death, tons of controversy in this area for its entire existence. This is one of those places where neighbors would feud with each other and they'd kill each other. And there was some law in the books back in the day where you could kill each other legally. I don't know.
Oh, probably dueling or something.
You could you could duel, but you could also have a feud. And I don't know how they manage that. I don't know.
I had some family in Virginia, and there were certain areas that they talked about that the law enforcement did not want to go into. And it was kind of, you do your thing over there, and we don't care about your drugs or whatever, but you just stay out there because it's all family and people can disappear and they'll never be found again. So,
yep. That's parts of Tennessee too. That's Carthage. That's Smith County.
People
ever get
about
a chance, if you ever get a chance to go, don't pass it. Just go somewhere else. Doesn't matter where else, but just not there.
Well, that's one of the things I have to laugh at because I bought some farmland, and I said, if you keep good relations with neighbors, people can disappear and no one will say a word. I think that's, that's the, for people that are trying to cause problems,
right.
That's, if you're Antifa, there's a reason you stay in the city and you don't go out towards the countryside. Like, you be friendly, we'll be friendly, but if push comes to shove, you'll just disappear and no one knows where you are.
Right.
So I'm not saying that's right or anything else, but it's just one of those funny things that people it always amazes me because I said, I've never had any problems with people out in the country, but they see everything. And that's the thing that people don't realize is that you don't see that many cars come down certain roads, and people keep track of it. Like, who's that road? And I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I
Who's
work
on that road.
Yeah, I remember working one time, and they went over, and we had a government vehicle, and we had permission to enter the land. And the neighbor came over, was talking to us, and I look out the mirror, and he's taking a picture of our license plate. I said, "Yep." I said, "They know, they take care of that, and everyone's friendly, but you know, it's just like so and so is in your property at this date." And I said, "Yeah, that's," and I don't mind it myself. You know, if I'm supposed to be there and we get permission, then absolutely. I hope that you're taking care of your neighbor. But
Yeah.
if you're not supposed to be there, people need to understand that.
Yeah. You behave out here.
Yes. I did that one time is I thought we had permission. We went on to the piece of property, and that landowner came up, and he was huffing mad. And then I said, "I'm sorry, this is what we are. We thought that we'd done this." Anyway, he comes over, he talks to me, and I said, "All right, sir, I'm so and so." He says, "Well, I didn't see this." I said, "Well, it's right there." And I was like, "You can see the government plates." We were talking, and I said, "Okay." He says, "All right, when you're done, just give me a call." And I said, "All right." So I called him, and he didn't answer. I stopped and talked to his grandson, talked about that. He called me the next day, and he apologized. He said, "Yeah, I'm sorry for coming off as a mean old man," and blah blah blah. And I said, "Sir, I don't blame you. It's your property, and if it's to me, it's a courtesy thing. We should have been doing that." But he came off as a very, very friendly person. The next day, and he told me the reason that he was worried about it and everything else. I said, "You have every right to be that way. It doesn't bother me." I said, we thought that they had notified you. I mean, we always had permission, but we thought that you'd been notified that we were coming on your property. And, we just, I was shocked that they hadn't informed you. But so.
Yeah. You don't do anything without permission.
Well, he had some stories too, because it was a dam, and, he said people just acted like they own the property. I said, "Oh, no. I said, I always invite, whenever I go out, I always invite the landowners to come with me. And almost very few of them will, but it's like, I'm not trying to do anything secret. Come with me. I'd love to have you along. Come. I think the public the more the public knows about dams, the better, because that's an area that people don't understand, and there's never enough money, and they're doing, we can't keep them up, and that's the sad thing, and people love them, but we don't have the money, and Congress isn't providing it. And even if they gave us all the money immediately, we couldn't rebuild them. So,
yeah, same thing is going on in Tennessee with its dams. They're all built back in the 50s, and they have been decaying. Some of them have crashed. Some of them have malfunctioned. I think it was 10 years ago. Wow, time flies. 10 years ago, the dam malfunctioned, and it flooded Nashville because it had 13 inches of rain.
Yeah.
And the dam malfunctioned, right?
Yeah.
And it was only supposed to let a little bit through. It wide open. It went wide open, and it flooded Nashville. We have these maintenance creeks that they've been trying to maintain for 150 years. They flooded all of them. We lost Grand Ole Opry. We lost half of downtown. We lost a bunch of neighboring areas and tons of houses.
I just forgot my charger.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think I should wrap it up now. It's 3 a.m. here.
You know what? I'm the same. Well, no, you're an hour ahead of me, so I didn't really.
Yeah.
And
I got to go to the store because I'm almost out.
What is that you have? Oh, cigarettes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I had to get my charger.
No, that's
all
fine.
And I guess James is having some dinner. Sounds actually pretty tasty.
Yeah, he started out with technical difficulties.
Well, I'm going to say this much for a little bit side note. When we're talking about stuff, is we'll see if I can get my trees up. I need to plant them probably around the beginning of the year. If I can get them up, I'm maybe the year after when we have the solar eclipse, because it goes right over my property. The total solar eclipse in 2024.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can get some bees to put out there. When we're talking about wax and stuff, like I'll have some. That's my plan.
You know what? Something when you have that happen at your place,
Yeah.
watch as the light filters through the trees and look at the sidewalks and the ground. It will take the shape of the sun.
Oh yeah.
It's so weird and cool. No wonder they thought the earth was dying, the end of the world was on them. You're looking at the sidewalks and the streets and have all these little eclipses all over the place. I was like, whoa.
Well,
That
for
is
us, it's going to be
awesome.
the 2024 is going to be a total solar eclipse for about 4 something minutes.
Yeah,
Or-
that's what
right.
happened here a few years
Yeah.
ago. We had it, came right over Nashville.
Oh wow.
And that was the first time I'd ever seen it basically right on top of me.
I mean, I've seen the partial solar eclipses, but and I was out there, and it's funny. It didn't seem like it was that much darker, but boy, you can feel the temperature drop. And so whenever I start hearing all these people talk about global warming, I'm, most of it's the sun. Okay, the sun determines what our real temperature is.
I actually had an eclipse on one of my birthdays. It was pretty freaking cool.
Oh, really? Very
Mhm.
cool. What year was that?
Fuck, I don't know. It was, I think it was my 16th birthday.
So probably about
So-
1984 or something. Or maybe-
57, 89, 70, 71, 72. Yeah, about 84.
Well, the reason I mentioned that is because I remember being in Kentucky and we had a partial solar eclipse then. So
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it wasn't a big deal one, but it was,
yeah.
it was just a thing. I've always had a affinity for moon and moonlight and crap like that.
Well, I
Doing a
hear
lot of shady shit at night,
all I hear is if you're over a total solar eclipse, and I don't know, maybe Nathan, you said you were over a total. As I said, when
Yep.
and you can't do a 99%, you have to do it's 100 or nothing. Well, not entirely, but he said it's when you get a total solar eclipse, it's an event. If you don't believe in God, it's something that really does make you feel.
Yeah, it was like, whoa, what the hell's happening?
So I'm looking forward to that because that's not.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
pretty
where
weird.
I live right now, it'll be about 3.5 minutes. If I go to my property, it's gonna be about 4.5. So, and there's no one out there. I just have to. I may go out there just to make sure people aren't, traipsing all over my fields, if nothing else.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, it's been a good show. And I like telling that story about the cemetery. It's still the craziest thing I've ever had happen to me, and I've had all kinds of crazy things happen to me. That one takes the cake. Big time.
You never said what happened to her, your friend.
Oh, she wanted to go back on Halloween. I was like, oh hell no.
Oh,
And yeah, she wanted to do it all again and bring a friend. I was like, no. They're just now forgiving me.
Take care, James. We'll
we're
see you
not
soon,
going.
buddy.
all right. Okay. Well, Nathan, I
too,
appreciate you having me on.
guys,
As soon as you
Maria,
start talking
and
about
who else
natural
is here?
disasters. Oh, sorry. Chad.
Yeah.
I was just saying goodnight to people in chat
Okay.
before we say goodnight to each other,
Yes.
so they don't feel
Yeah.
like we're ignoring them.
Right.
It's
for
me. It's hard if I'm not careful. I accidentally kick myself out of the show if I don't
Yeah.
push the right button just right.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining in. Two Broke Guys, you come in right at the end, but it wasn't a very bad ending. It was a good ending. And
It's a real good show. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Great way to end the week, so to speak. I mean, we still have Sunday, but that's a day of rest, and I hope everybody gets lots of rest because whole new week is starting, obviously, but the part 2 of the holiday season is coming, and that's sometimes a little bit more stressful, or sad, or whatever for some people. And just remember, guys, you know where to find us if you ever want to chat.
Yep.
I'm always out there. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram and all the freaking weird shit except Twitter.
I'm still on Twitter.
Well, you haven't been banned. He's going to allow the amnesty. So,
Yep.
Maria, I used to be a big night owl, and I think I took too long of a nap, so I'm gonna have to reset my schedule for work. Not today, but the day after. But
Right.
anyway, yeah. I was hoping to get my son at some point to talk to you, Nathan, because he loves to talk about the paranormal and the stuff like that. And,
Well, I'd love to have him, even if he has no camera and he's only talking.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, exactly. If it helps him, my son will probably be on here next week to talk about his thing, and you can say, watch this. This is our friend so and so and his son, and he's going to talk. And maybe if you're not comfortable, we'll turn off the camera, but they can still hear you and maybe help you or whatever. Just sometimes just talking about stuff helps.
I've tried. I've given the option. I mean, he's been with me for the most part, but I probably won't get him again until New Year's. So he's like, I just want a break from you. I said, okay, you've been with me, most of the month. That's okay. I love you anyway. So
yeah, sometimes
Yep.
too much of a good thing could be a bad thing. I can't imagine.
I know.
But
I just have to laugh. Well, I don't mind having him, but he's a good kid.
he sounds like it.
All right.
Play
Well,
Conan, geez.
Yeah. Y'all have a good night for the rest of the night. What's left of it? And I do have to go to the store for real, because I'm not not on the way to work. I go to work tomorrow, so not on the way to work. That's crazy. So y'all have a good night.
Be careful out there, Nathan.
Oh yeah. And save up your weirdness for next week. And I don't know, if anything happens during, I might do shorts. My buddies in the paranormal community are inspiring me. So
okay, and make sure you hook up. We'll talk about the thing with Sage Forsaken.
Yes, I've already commented on Facebook, I think, to him. I'm all for
cool.
doing that. Yeah.
Okay, make sure you tell him that I told you, so that he doesn't what the hell? You psychic?
Okay.
Yeah, as a matter of fact.
Actually, why are you here? Okay. All right, gentlemen.
Take care, everybody.
Great. All right. Talk to y'all later.
Love you guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Keep it quantum.